Okay, Wendy, you're on.
Dr. Charles Shoemaker.
Here.
Joey Gaines.
Here.
Rebecca Bowling.
Here.
Dr. Sandra Flowers.
Present.
Robert Leary.
Here.
Thomas Bailey.
Here.
Dr. Robert Power.
Here.
All present. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Look at all this moment of silence.
Yeah, we have, bear with me, we have five, or is it six deaths that we're going to honor. The first is William Bill Heffernan, who passed away on Wednesday, January 2nd in Largo, Florida. Born in Newport in 1924, he is the son of the late William Heffernan and Iva Heffernan. Mr. Heffernan attended Rogers High School, earning 4 varsity letters in his senior year in football, basketball, baseball, and tennis. After serving in World War II, he graduated from URI, received his master's degree from Bridgewater State College, and was an English teacher at Rogers High School from 1950 until his retirement in 1985. As the Rogers High School tennis coach from 1952 to 85, he received many accolades for his athletic and coaching successes, and the city of Newport dedicated the tennis courts at Vernon Park in his name. He is preceded by his late wife, Catherine Skippy Matley, and survived by his wife, Marie Dugan Heffernan, 4 children, Brian, Janet, Kevin, and Deborah Lynch. Sullivan triplet school reading teacher, 1 brother, 1 sister, 7 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, 7 stepchildren, and 15 grand-stepchildren. The second is William B. Amato of Portsmouth, passed away on Thursday, January 10th, 2013. At Grand Islander Health Center in Middletown. Mr. Amato attended Rogers High School and served in the Army Air Corps. Mr. Amato is survived by his children, Karen McGee and her husband, Barry, Cheryl Abney, Thompson Middle School nurse, and her husband, State Representative Marvin L. Abney, William Amato and his wife, Carmen, and Paul M. Amato and his wife, Lisa, 8 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. Clara Pontes of Little Compton passed away on Monday, January 14th, 2013, at St. Anne's Hospital in Fall River, Mass. Mrs. Pontes was the wife of the late Joseph Ponce. Born in Little Compton, she was the daughter of late Antonio and Hortense Carrera Pinero. As a lifelong resident of Little Compton, Mrs. Pontes graduated from the Josephine Wilbur High School, was a former organist at St. Catherine's of Siena Church, and retired in 1989 from the Rhode Island School Lunch Program after 26 years of service. Mr. Pontes leaves 2 sons, Colton Pontes and his wife Catherine of Portsmouth, and Daniel G. Pontes, Roger High School automotive technology teacher of Little Compton, and 1 grandson, Greg, of Seekonk, Massachusetts. Amy Alves of Newport passed away on Thursday, January 17th, at her home. Mrs. Alves was born in Tacoma, Maryland on April 10th, 1958, and was the daughter of the late Clarence O'Neill and late Harriet Madonna Byrne Huntley. She was employed in the restaurant industry for many years, and most recently as a lunch aide at Cranston Calvert School. Given her love of sports, she served as a volunteer for the Pop Warner football program and all youth sports in Newport and Middletown for over 30 years. Mrs. Alves is survived by her husband, Louis Alves, twin sons Austin Lewis and Andrew Lewis Alves, who both attend Thompson Middle School, 5 sisters, 4 brothers, and many nieces and nephews. Kimberly L. Hopkins of Indianapolis, Indiana, passed away on Monday, January 21st, 2013, at home. Born in Honolulu in 1956, she was the daughter of Cynthia Wilkins and Anthony Hopkins. Ms. Hopkins graduated from North Central High School in Indianapolis and received her bachelor's degree from Indiana University and master's of divinity degree from McCormick Seminary in Chicago. In 2012, she retired as chief financial officer at the Rachel Health Center in Indianapolis. Ms. Hopkins is survived by her daughter, Grace Hopkins, sisters Christy Sykert, Rogers High School science teacher, and her husband, Jack. Hope Cochran and her husband, Tom. Faith Hopkins and her husband, Mike, and brother Anthony Hopkins II. Judith Cheryl Brennan of Middletown passed away on Tuesday, February 5th at the Newport Hospital. Born in 1949 in Malden, Mass., she was the daughter of the late Richard H. and Pauline Polly H. Burns White. Mrs. Brennan attended Colby College in Waterville, Maine, graduating in 1971 with a B.A. in English Literature and attained both a B.S. and M.S. degree in nursing from Salve, Virginia University. Her nursing career spanned over 30 years at Newport Hospital, visiting nurse services of Newport and Bristol County and St. Clair's home. Mrs. Brennan is survived by her husband, Robert E. Brennan, son of Raleigh Brennan, Rogers High School dean, and his fiancée, Meg Loftus. Stepdaughters, Lori Brennan Becker and her husband, Scott. Christine Brenner Ferrelli, Ferroli, and her husband, Paul. 5 step-grandchildren, and her sister, Pamela Hightower. I'd ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Item 2 is open for public comment. Wendy, have we received any requests for comment?
Scott Dickinson.
Not, he's going to talk
Well, they-
on the subject when it comes up. He's spoken to me already. Okay.
Okay, good.
Which gets us to 3, which is the layoff process, pre-deprivation hearings. Hear from the superintendent first.
Yes, you will hear from me the same things I've said for the last 8 years. The state in its infinite wisdom has a notification date of March 1st. We've asked for 8 years. The notification date be pressed back to June 1st when we have a better understanding of our finances and our enrollment. This recommendation this evening is something that I never like to do. That's why I would like to have it in June rather than now. But I'm recommending the attached list of teachers be advised that they give notice, and this notice be given to them no later than February 28th. So, again, I think it's outrageous that we have to go through this thing every year. We've asked the state, and you've supported on several different occasions resolutions that have asked the state to move this back. It's a heart-wrenching situation, even though folks know that they're probably coming back. You can never guarantee it. And so I say again, it's great reluctance that I do this every year. This isn't a whole lot of fun for me. It's certainly not a whole lot of fun for the people who get the layoff notices.
Is he chance? Go ahead, go to the podium. Do we have to vote on this?
Yeah, yeah.
Excuse me, and there'll be somebody else who wants to speak.
Oh, okay, sure.
I suspect that most of you know who I am. If not, you have not been reading your local press, such as the Newport Daily News, Newport This Week, Newport Patch, to mention a few. Over the past 10 years of my service to Newport Public Schools, I have been responsible for countless press releases spotlighting the great things I have been doing with my students at Rogers. I recall no less than 3 so far this year. They range from my Rogers Goes Green environmental plan for the campus to hydroponically growing lettuce this winter in our horticulture classes, and being the only high school teacher in Rhode Island to bring high school students to a recent oceanography symposium at the University of Rhode Island to listen to Dr. Robert Ballard speak about his latest explorations. I felt great satisfaction when one of my students told me, after speaking with a friend from Rocky Hill School who had seen a live telecast of the lecture, well, Mr. D at Rocky Hill, they had a telecast of Dr. Ballard. I got to put it in his face that my teacher got us in to see him. And Dr. Ballard came up and shook our hands. It was me who went on the offensive for my students when a letter writer sent a letter to the Daily News criticizing Rogers students and the educational process at Rogers. Yes, I set him straight about his uneducated remarks and was praised by emails from some of you as well as other Newporters and Rogers supporters. Yes, I'm the teacher that puts it all out there for the community to see what great things are being done at Rogers. I have one picture of my students shining on the Newport Public Schools website and 4 out of 9 pictures on the Rogers website. This is because I care about what I do and who I do it for. On my own time, I run an after-school enrichment robotics program for Rogers students. I am getting students interested in the promising fields of engineering at many levels. I have done this for my first year at Rogers. I don't do it for pay. I do it to build the minds of my students. Newport Community School did support the program, but their bureaucracy took more time and energy than the program itself. I told them I really just wanted to work with my students. I do it because I care. I am a dedicated professional. I stay current with my effective new trends in education. The science department, as a team, has worked to push those kneecap test scores in a positive direction. I feel that in part, my methods have helped to make that happen, and they need to continue. As teachers, we are continually challenged by the Rhode Island Department of Education as they push their agenda, which is stressful enough. We are continually called on to be professional. Then, every year, you support the demoralizing practice of laying off good people in this game that you call balancing the budget. This is not a healthy way for professional people to work together. I have heard the line about the Rhode Island law 100 times. It does not make us feel better. I have been patted on the back 100 times and told, oh, don't worry, your job is safe. Well, I do not see it that way, and this is a cruel burden to lay on the backs of teachers who are on the front line working with students to make the world a better place. I had hoped to have numbers of layoffs per year and the actual number of positions lost at this time. With the school delays due to the recent storm, I could not get those figures for tonight. Looks like something like 34 people last year and 30 the year before. But the point is, you upset people and the energy for needless reasons when you dig so deep into this ludicrous process you see fit to practice every year. And yes, we know legislation has been introduced that might help put an end to this, but in the meantime, you're toying with people's lives, and it creates chaos and anxiety amongst teachers. Even Deborah Gist states that this practice causes unnecessary upheaval, and that laying off educators because of imposed notification deadline leads to undue stress and anxiety that can disrupt the process of teaching and learning. This is not what we need, and we're trying to build a community of learners and build a better school system. I therefore call on you, the Newport School Committee, to take a stance and stop the insanity of this practice. This practice is needlessly disrupting of the school community. And by the way, my name is Scott Dickerson.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your support of Rogers High School and your teaching. You're to be congratulated. Thank you. Was there somebody else who wanted to comment on this subject?
My name is Valerie Drukin, and I'm the nurse currently at Rogers High School, and love doing it, I will add. I've also had some recent medical issues, but I must say the pink slip has caused me more angst than everything previous. So I'd just like to say a few things just to perhaps have you take into consideration as you think about cutting the crew of nurses. Currently, there's 5 full-time nurses in the Newport Public School system, and we work great as a team. I think we do a very good job, but I must say we're pretty maxed out even now in full force. It's almost impossible to get a sub, to have coverage where there's a death, a funeral, sicknesses. We don't do these personal days. We don't take anything. It just doesn't work. It's a little different than the teachers. And when you're talking about a cut, please consider, basically I haven't had a lot of time to prep this, but it appears that the population of students and actually the staff, and if you consider all the staff that we actually service, health, wellness, and otherwise, that really doesn't seem to change with the Pell. The workload for the nurses is essentially going to remain the same. Newport's a unique population. I've found out when I was laid off before. I've gone other places. But we're unique. I love it. But it's needy, and often we're the only access to health care for a lot of these students. We're very different than other communities as a core city. So there's some concerns, big concerns with compliance if you cut, and liability. We have nursing licenses that we care very much about. Just a quick review, maybe, because sometimes I think the role of the school nurse teacher isn't always known. People think the obvious, and it's not what it was 5 and even 10 years ago. Yes, we have the day-to-day injuries, and with a large school, recess can be a nightmare. We have illnesses. We help track them. We work with the Department of Health. We have outbreaks. We put out a full-force effort with the flu. Record keeping, this is serious stuff. We're liable. Immunization compliance, a pet project of mine. But that's not as easy as you think. We do lots of background follow-ups. Food allergy compliance, cafeterias, classrooms. We have a lot of medically fragile students. There's no way other to say it except that some of these students are here getting very intensive treatment that 5 years ago was really only being done in a hospital setting. Now it's being done in a school setting. We have individual emergency action plans for all these students. And again, liability. Families expect they expect the best, and we have to be able to comply and make sure that their students are safe, and we have a plan when things happen. In addition to all that, we do population-based screenings mandated by the Rhode Island law. Very time-consuming. So for each of these students, grade 1 through 5, and then 6, 7, 8, we have vision, we have hearing, we have dental, we have scoliosis. And it almost takes us all year long to go through them all. In addition, particularly at the levels elementary, and we're talking about the Pell, the nurses teach family life. Somehow they have to get out of the office into each classroom. They don't have planning periods, so that leaves people alone. Okay, servicing staff, that's a big concern. We have, I don't know how many will be at Pell, 80 staff. We spend a lot of time with health issues. So some of the concerns, I think, are very valid, because even right now, it's not uncommon. I have to leave here. I go with a student to the emergency room. There's someone needs to be coverage here for medications. We have insulin-dependent diabetics. We have seizures. There are tube feedings out there. It's a very different world. And if you're talking about one student, 2 nurses for 900 students, and including pre-K, a lot of very needy issues at that level. 70 to 80 staff there. Be aware that the elementary nurses also cover, we're obliged to cover Clooney School. And there's a lot. There's several hundred students there, I believe, 2 or 3. And again, the population-based screenings, record-keeping, immunization. It's at least a day a week, I believe, a nurse goes. And that would leave one nurse at a school with 900 small children, 80 staff. Recess is a nightmare as it is. But there's a lot of times when there would be a problem about that. If there's a nurses out coverage, we don't have the pool. And I'd like you to consider how difficult it is if you eliminate a nurse to find someone. It's just not that easy. So as you review things, please consider this and know that other districts have tried, and it has led to lawsuits and liabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for what you do. Anybody else wish to speak in the public? We'll ask, okay. Apparently, we have to approve this list.
Right, there has to be a motion to approve the list for non-renewal, suspension, layoffs, and/or termination of personnel as attached.
Anybody want to be brave enough to make that motion?
No.
If nobody makes the motion, then nobody gets laid off.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't know what this committee is thinking, and I know how difficult it is for all these people out here, but you have to understand budgets, and it's very difficult. The city of Newport, for every $600,000 is 1% tax raise. So if you want to raise, the city wants to raise $2.4 million, the most they can do is 4% cap this year. It's the highest they can go, it's 4%. The retirees are costing us $1.5 million extra this year, the city of Newport, the whole city, 1.5 million. And the school bond payment starts next year. That's 1.3 million. They haven't decided the exact number, but that's $2.8 million. You're over your cap before you even start. Before you even start anything else, you're over your cap in the state of Newport. So you have to appeal to the state if they feel like doing that. I'm not sure they are going to appeal that way. They'll find some cuts or something like that. So it's very difficult when we sit here. And it's very difficult listening to the nurse and listen to everybody else. But it's hard when we sit here, when we pass the school bond. We passed the school bond. You had support from people like the Alliance of Liberal Newport, the Point Association, the Hill Association, the Oka Point Association. All these groups are very fiscally conservative. And the reason they supported the idea was they told me to save $800,000, over $800,000, the day you open that school. And Thompson, before, tried to pass 3 or 4 times before it got passed. The Pell Bond passed first time on a 3 or 4% vote. And that, I think personally, I don't know the facts to prove it, I personally believe is that you had a lot of fiscally conservative people in Newport saw that you're going to save this money by opening this school. And now it's coming home. Now it's coming home. You're going to have to do it. There's tough decisions to make on this committee. And if you think the council is going to let you sit here and go over your cap without even talking about your money when your bond is difficult. So I will make that motion, Mr. Chairman. Reluctantly, I know it's very difficult. I understand the timing. I understand what everybody's saying. It's not easy. But, you know, at some point, the taxpayers in Newport are going to get revolted like everybody else when you're paying $1.5 million this year for retirees. So your road won't get done, nothing's going to get done, just to cover your payment for your unfunded liability that you have to put in by law. So at some point, it's going to come. So I will make that motion.
Is there a
Mr.
second?
Chair, second, can I make a comment?
Sure.
I do have a problem with the layoff every year, but it's the state responsibility. We have state senator at high position. She could push something through. I don't ever see that she does it. I think if the unions decided to push the state legislature to do something, that would be one thing. We're put in a bind. If we don't lay people off, after a certain point, we can't lay them off after, say, in March. We would have to pay everybody that's there. And we couldn't balance the budget. Now, because we don't know what's in the future. Now, if the state is willing to change something, we won't have to go through this process. So until everybody gets on it, we vote on it every year. But I don't see other people do anything in the state legislature. I don't see the unions pushing this issue. And until they do that, nothing's going to change. Because we keep voting on, all the school committees keep saying change the law. And nothing happens. So I think it's up to you and everybody else to make that happen. Get a hold of your state legislature and get on that case. We have people in a position that should be able to do something, but they're not doing it at this moment.
Mrs. Gaines?
I can't support this list. As much as I know that we need to balance the budget, I'm tired of balancing budgets on the backs of kids. And that's what I see happening here. We're losing talented people who are dedicated to our kids because we need to balance a budget. I think what we need to do is fight for the budget. But we can't do it alone. Many times I've gone to that budget meeting at City Hall, and there was nobody there but us. We need the support of the community. We need the support of parents in order to support our kids. And this doesn't do it. When I see the science department being decimated, I see nurses that we need for kids with all kinds of problems. I see the arts program being decimated, that is suddenly starting to grow and bloom, and kids are flourishing. I can't do it again. I just can't.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
3 brief comments. First, hopefully the viewers who will be looking at this and people who will be reading about this in the press will have learned a great deal when Mrs. Druken gave an excellent overview of what the school nurse teachers have to do. Like I say, I've been out for 17 and a half years, like who's counting, but that long, and I realized that the responsibilities for that particular group have just expanded and expanded so much. That is one piece. And I hope a lot of people now, the public, the general public, will have learned something there. If, as we heard, Commissioner Gist is serious about changing these layoff dates, and we do have later on a mention about our legislators from Aquidneck Island and beyond who do want to change the date, not that it makes life easier, but at least we'd have a better idea of the number of people we really need. But if the commissioner is really serious about this, maybe she should push it as diligently as a number of the other issues that are being sent down to the local schools. So if she really believes that this is a burden that we're all having to bear, here's hoping she really hears that from the people. And third, without the teachers and all the people that are on this list, we have nothing. We could have the best buildings that we could ever possibly put together, but if we don't have those folks in the classrooms, in the nurse's office, in the art rooms, in the music rooms and so forth, just close up the doors. I cannot support this either.
Mrs. Van Bolen?
Can I speak?
Yes.
I just, last year, Jack, how many people came back after they were at the end? Do we end up hiring everybody but half of a gym teacher?
Everybody came back at the end.
Except for
This
half a
is-
gym teacher, I think.
Yeah, this is,
But, I know, I understand, but maybe what we need to do as a school committee, like, understanding that we have to do this every year, and we asked you to plan for every scenario, so we've asked you to do that.
right.
But I think that maybe we need to take a closer look on exactly how that impacts the lives of these people out here, and, so I'm going to make a commitment, I'm going to support this tonight, and knowing full well that 95% of you, 99 are all coming back, but, because we have to do it. But I'm going to look at this next year, I'm going to make the promise that I'm going to bring this up ahead of time, and that we sit and make sure that we don't put people on this list that maybe don't need to be there and cause angst in people's lives like this, so.
I agree, and I sort of take umbrage at the fact that we're hiding behind the state. We've been pressing the state for 8 years since I've been here. I've been really angry about it. You know it, I know it. They put us in this situation every year. I was hopeful that the unions would press this issue. They have not as of yet. I don't know why. But the truth of the matter is that if the school committee does not approve this evening, it sort of does put the district in jeopardy. And I believe that the vast majority of folks will be coming back. It's just a fail-safe that we go through every year. Every year we do this, and every year there's angst, and every year I say the same thing. It's not as though this is an enjoyable process. Please believe me, it is not. However, I've been asked to do every possible scenario. I've worked with your union leadership. Fran Eames sits down with your union leadership to develop these layoff lists. We can't do anything but that. I know it's horrible. I know there's angst. I know there's concern. And I know it happens every year. I wish I could fix it, but I can't. And I have to make these lists every year, and we do it in cooperation with your association to take a look at every possible scenario. and this is the worst-case scenario. So that's just another comment on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Howard.
I sat on the other side of this table for a lot of years. I was the person that hired a lot of the people in the school department. I did human resources. I went out, I recruited people, I brought them here, and then I'd have to watch year after year losing those people because they were the least senior people. There's been a lot of discussion lately at the commissioner's level about changing some of the seniority issues so that some of the people, just because they've been here for whatever amount of years, doesn't necessarily mean that they stay if they're not doing what they need to do. This is a very difficult decision for the school committee, but I also recognize, having sat on the other side of this table, that this would be catastrophic for the school system if we didn't do that, because every single person on this list would have a job next year. And, Mr. Leary is absolutely right. Financially, that could be a disaster if, in fact, there's problems financially with the school district. Now, as the superintendent said, 95, 96, 98% of the people come back. I know a lot of the teachers that come here first and second year, they kind of know in their head, I'm going to Newport, I got a job, I hope I get to keep my job, I don't know if I'm going to, it depends on what happens with the population. As teachers get into the system, as you talked about being in the science department, doing all the things you do, that used to tear my heart out, watching us lose those kind of people, or just putting them through that. And I'm sitting here tonight saying, I hate making this decision. I'm glad I'm not the guy that made the motion, quite honestly. But I'm going to have to support the motion because I also know the realities of the school system, that if we don't do this, we could get ourselves in a huge bind that we won't be able to get out of if something happens.
Mrs. Gaines?
Yeah, I have one more time, right? I have a question of the superintendent.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this decision made based on the possibility of a lower school population, or was it based on the fact that we need to balance a budget?
It was based on two variables, both of which are not revealed to us yet. So, and that's, everybody got a letter saying that it was an and or. So we don't know yet. I mean, we really don't know yet. And I keep saying that, and people don't listen. I was in New Jersey for 15 years. New Jersey, in its infinite wisdom, moved back the notification date. I didn't have to lay people off there because they knew what the budget was. They knew what the enrollment was. This is not a Jack Ambrogi issue. This is not a Newport School Department issue. This is a state issue, and shame on them.
I'm still, it's the same thing. I have to live with this guy. My reason for asking that question is that if it's strictly a budget issue, there's no way I can support this.
It isn't strictly a budget issue. It's a mix and match.
If our demographics indicate that we're going to have fewer kids, then common sense tells us we need fewer teachers. That's a whole different issue. So is there any way we can know?
Not now. Nope. You're going to hear that from me later on when we're talking about the Pell School, Joey.
Mr. Chairman?
You've seen the swing in the military. I mean,
Yeah.
even at the elementary K through 4, we've got 150 kids who come and go. I don't know. I can't tell you now. This is hurtful to everybody.
Mr. Leary?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for last time. Again, it's not an easy thing for me to do this either, but you have to answer some of Mrs. Gaines' question, is that you're going to have 2 classes at Rogers next year below 120 kids. There's an 8th grade going up there that has 120, and there's an 11th grade right now that has, I think, 125. You're going to open a high school next year with less than 550 kids in the high school. And compliments to Dr. Shoemaker. For years, we've been trying to regionalize this, and we get nowhere with it. And I know people have their feelings about that both ways, but it's very difficult when you're trying to regionalize, nobody else wants to regionalize. You're going to have to get more and more specific, and there's going to be less and less kids in the school, and you're going to have to do courses like that. It's going to be hard to offer certain electives. It's going to be hard to do all this stuff when you have a few kids in the school. And that's unfortunate. Dr. Powers raised a good point to me, and thank you. I would like to ask this question of Dr. Ambrosia. Are these all based on seniority?
They are seniority-based because we have no way yet of evaluating teachers. They haven't gone through the process yet. And since these people have all been deemed by me to be worthy of employment, it is based on seniority.
So, I'm not afraid to stick my finger up in the wind. That's how I do it and see the way the wind's blowing here. But we have a librarian on the list. We have a librarian that's been out over 90 days last
Okay,
year.
Mr.
We can't talk about it.
Okay.
Mr. Leary, please do not talk about
Right.
personnel issues.
Well, I'm just saying,
I
maybe laying wrong people off.
I understand that, but it's recognizable, so. Okay.
Seeing no other hands for discussion, I guess I'm going to have to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
No.
Okay. I would ask the people, especially for the teachers and your union, to stay honest. 5-2. To stay honest, so we keep this, coming in February, when we've got that list, it's just too late for us to make some compromises. We need to make efforts in the fall and so on, so we can maybe have some more input about who's on that list. And your unions have got to support changing that date. And I'd ask, if you got some leadership in the union who supports it, to contact us so we can work with you on the subject, because it is a painful process and it makes no sense to me at this point.
None at all.
Okay, I guess we move on. Sorry.
Can we take after Gabby says something, can we take the other stuff out of order?
Sure.
Because we've got
Yeah.
Jim Farrar here, and then we've got the NSDEC folks here.
Hi. I'll try to be brief. So, National History Day was last week, and there were a ton of great projects. Winning entries of that competition are going to go on and compete this April at the state level. So, congratulations, juniors. Y'all did a great job. There's an art showcase today and tomorrow for Rogers students, and we basically go to workshops involving music, writing, or acting, and it really expands our horizons in that aspect. This afternoon, boys indoor track, I guess they have competed at their championship in Providence. Girls basketball heads to Tiverton, and tonight is senior night for both boys basketball and the swim team. Boys basketball will host Tiverton, and swimming will welcome Classical. Hockey continues to have a great season and hopes to place in the playoffs. Seniors are completing their financial aid and scholarships and just got measured for caps and gowns. And theater and dance practices are in full swing. And Rogers will be hosting its annual Black History Month assembly this Friday.
Thank you very much. A lot of stuff going on. Any questions? Yes, Ms. Flowers?
Not a question, but I was privileged to be one of the History Day judges. And, I mean, it was absolutely wonderful. I put a long piece on my blog on patch.com. And it was just a privilege, and it was just so refreshing to speak with the young people who showed their presentation skills. They really had just a nice air about them. I was in conversation with them, and just something, I learned a lot by looking at a lot of the displays, and it's really something to see children of people that you taught years ago. But I just cannot say enough about the young people and, of course, their teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Flowers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Dr. Ambrosius asked if we could change the or the agenda somewhat. Is anybody object on the school board that we change the agenda order? We have a couple of outside guests who maybe in this inclement weather would prefer to get home a little sooner. So which one do you want to go with first?
I think Jim Farrar will be briefer than the NSDEC reports, so if we could talk about the Pell update.
Mr. Chairman, the point of order, we have to make a vote to amend this
So
agenda.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of changing the schedule?
Aye.
You're on, Jim.
Okay.
Yep.
Update on progress. I think as you can see by going by the building, things are moving along well. We have there's been a lot of activity. Overall, the project is on schedule. It's been moving along at a very good pace. As I said at the last time that I appeared in front of you, we're working from the west side to the east as far as the completion. So we call the west wing Building A. It is, right now, the sheetrock is up, painters are in there. We're actually starting to put ceramic tile in bathrooms. So it's really getting into the finishes. Building B, which is the administrative wing, and the gymnasium and the library area. We have that tight. Sheetrock is ready to go, basically ready to start going in. All mechanical systems, electrical, plumbing, everything is inspected and ready for closure. So that building's moving along well. And we go into the lower grade school, which is Building C. That one's following. Right now we have the roof is tight. All the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection trades are moving in there as we speak. So overall, the project is moving very well. Got a lot of strong subcontractors on site, a lot of manpower out there, and again, we're on schedule. As far as the exterior of the site goes, you know, a lot of that is going to start again in a few weeks, but all the basic infrastructure is in place. Everything is basically at subgrade, so we're in a good position here for the spring. Any questions on the building itself as far as schedule?
You want to talk about the meeting with Joe?
Oh, yeah, I was going to get into that with the financing piece, but we had a meeting, what was that, a week and a half ago up at the Rhode Island Department of Education. We met with a whole group. So we had our engineering group there. We had RIDE there. Joe DeSilva was there leading the group. So anyways, the presentation at that time was to look at where we were with the completion of the project. That ties into obviously, the reimbursement from the state. But we also were there, main focus of the meeting was to go over the CHIPS compliance and the energy level, the green levels that we're meeting on the building. So right now, we are projecting to max out on this project and meet a 44% reimbursement. This would be one of the first ones in the state. So this is it's a major achievement. So they were definitely quite pleased.
Jim,
The other,
I just interrupt, when you say 44% of what? So I think I guess what, but I'd like you to tell me what it's saving the city in terms of money.
well, I don't have the dollar values broken out. There's a lot of work that's going to be going on right now to determine that. And again, RIDE has to get into it for the interpretation right now from the engineering perspective that we're presenting for the energy efficiencies of the building. We've met all the criteria for that 44% reimbursement. So again, there's going to be a little bit of back and forth with them over the next few months. Hopefully we have it nailed down in the spring. But for this meeting, that's the best of the best. So it was very, very good.
Jim, would you talk about the cost of the modulars and if that needs to be done, just a general concept?
Well, what I did the last time that we met, when you had interest in exploring that, I believe you had spoken to another company, maybe William Scotsman had been involved. We've had some dealings with another company called Triumph. So we had Triumph come down and look at the site and follow up with a proposal. So I posted that. I had my guys in my company post that onto our website. We sent an email out to you so that you could get in there and access it. The files were too big to do by email, so we posted them on our website. The bottom line is that they came on down, we evaluated the site, looked at positioning for modulars out there, if you entertain that, and then we received a proposal from them. You were all copied on that proposal, so that had the financial terms of what's involved in going into a lease arrangement on this modular setup. In addition to that are other costs that would come into play. So there's, we have to feed those modulars with electrical. We have to make a building connection out there. These would be placed out on the west end of the property. We have two means of egress coming out of that end. So we would use one of those egress as a point of connection. So there'd be a little bit of a vestibule type building that would have to be built, and then the placement of the modulars. There's electrical work that needs to be done. There's sprinkler connections that would need to be done. And there's a little bit of site work involved with it. When I had Triumph prepare their proposal, I wanted their proposal to be as inclusive as possible. So the other costs that or the other items that I've talked about, which would fall outside of their proposal, at this point, I would give an estimate of that of approximately $150,000 to $200,000. And I think that that's, again, at this point, that's an estimate. We know the scope of work that needs to be done. In the event that you decided to pursue this, again, we would have to talk about the procurement process of either putting this out to bid or going through a change order process with our general contractor and moving it through in that direction. There's definitely, legwork involved in putting this thing together. So it's not just that we call them up and get this going. We have to go out there and do some legwork and make it happen. If you are entertaining the thought of pursuing that, it is something that you'll have to decide on fairly soon. We would need to make sure that we have all the approvals in place with the city, and obviously our checks and balances that would happen with Bride.
Mr. Chairman, not to
Yes.
interrupt him, but this is voted on by the school committee and passed. It can be rescinded, but at this point, I think you have to proceed in that direction until something else comes up.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, this is Bud Bowen.
Question, was that 150 to 170 range, is that the two-year estimate?
No, this is the infrastructure
That
that's
was the
required to
infrastructure.
hook them up.
Okay, and then what was the cost for the, I'm trying to remember what the cost was for the, because they came back with a two-year, you can't do it for 1 year, correct?
3 years, wasn't it?
Was it a 3 years?
It was a 3-year deal. You had to do it for 3
No,
years.
I thought it was two, but,
I thought-
Yeah, they had a 24-month
and it,
at $51.20 a month. They had a
5120, 5,000?
$5,120.
Okay.
They had a 36-month at $4,480.
And that's for each of the four, if we've got four, that'd be 5,000 times the four, or is that 5,000 for all four?
That's for all four.
So it's $100,000.
Right, well, you have a copy of this proposal. It's dated December 18th. You'd really need to go through this in detail. With this, it says, "We are offering a price proposal for refurbished modular units as outlined below. The building will consist of 4 14 by 66 or 3,696 square feet, providing for 4 classrooms. Note that the units proposed will be utilized from existing inventory and are subject to availability at time of order. There's a lease rate, and then you have the installation fees that go on top of that. That's $129,348. And then you have the removal cost at the end of the term of the lease, which is $27,000.
Jim, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mrs. Gaines.
Have we determined that we need these units?
Well, that's the question, and that's why we're pressing relatively quickly to come up with some solutions. There are a couple of different variables that we've been looking at. Number one, we're concerned that the preschool special education program may expand from 2 classes to 3 classes. We also, when we looked at this, realized that adding the modular units would not really address the issue of the preschool kindergarten programs combined, because we have 8 kindergarten classrooms and 2 preschool classrooms. So if in fact we had 10 kindergarten classrooms next year and kept the 2 preschool classrooms there, the modular classrooms wouldn't help out with that issue. We would have to move either the preschool classes or the kindergarten classes over to the first floor of the upper wing. So right now, I really want to take a look at what other options may exist, because I'm concerned that by doing this option, we're really not going to achieve the things that people had wanted to achieve. And that was to have a quality space for kindergarten and preschool. That won't exist anymore by this option. So, and I don't even know what the enrollment's going to be like. Another variable, and I'll just bring it out, there is a proposal for a new charter school. And the charter school has indicated that when it opens up in September of 2014, the year after Pell opens up, they're estimating that they will have 120 students. That's a huge variable swing for our elementary school level, and that's where all those kids would be coming from the first year. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to push forward the kindergarten registration to find out what that looks like. We've gone online to have the regular registration up and running. We're going to blanket the community with notification that this is happening now. We're also going to take a look again at those military families who are going to be leaving. So before we make this huge dollar commitment, I need to find out that it makes some sense in terms of the space we're dealing with. As I say again, by doing the modulars, that's not really addressing the issue of space for kindergarten and preschool.
That was my question.
Okay?
Okay.
Because that's on the upper wing, right?
That would have to move one of them, right, that's on the upper wing, and one, 2, or more of the preschool programs or the kindergarten programs would have to move to the upper school bottom floor, which I find is unacceptable, and it's an unacceptable space for them. So trying to figure out, and I've been talking with Amy, who is our student services director, about the fact that we're finding more and more youngsters eligible for the preschool program. So what happens if we have one more preschool class? What do we do then? So I am looking at this with new eyes, and I will be reaching out to folks to involve them with any new ideas that may come up.
I'm going to ask we
Charlie?
move on. We have a lot more to
Charlie,
do.
but I choose not to. I mean, I know that you want to, but,
Go ahead.
all right. I put this on the agenda tonight, so just so everybody's clear, the way the motion read was that when the Pell Option Committee, and that report you can see, and I don't even know if it's on the website right now, but it should be, it was determined that if we opened the school tomorrow, we'd be 2 classrooms short if we opened it tomorrow. I understand now that this charter school looks like it's a real possibility. So is it really a good investment to go with the modular classrooms, knowing that? Maybe not, and it's also looking like $250,000. But our second option, when we made that motion, we said, if it doesn't work for the modulars, for good reasons, we would go back to the first option, which takes care of the problems that you've just laid out, which is to move all the kindergartens over to triplet schools. So I think that we really should be looking in that direction, and I encourage everybody to go back and read this report, because the military, you can look at the military all you want, but you're not going to know who's coming in until August. That's just the nature of the beast. And also, something you may not even know, but one of the classes over at the War College next year, instead of being a 6-month program, is going to become a 1-year program, and there's going to be 46 more families coming into this area, whether they choose Newport or not. So I just think that maybe we need some motion on our next meeting, so that we start working towards the other, option.
Let me give you a third option. Rather than opening up Pell School with vacant classrooms, you could have triplet with the 2 preschool classrooms, with a possibility for a third, possibility for cooperation with Middletown or some other communities. So I would right now think that was a real viable option. That gives the preschool program its own space. We could move the special services office over there. I know Nicole Cardoza is very interested in continuing her role as early childhood coordinator. So I'm sort of looking at that as a possibility, having looked at this with new eyes. So let's find out a little bit more, and then I'd be more than happy to meet with everybody again.
We'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Great.
Okay, are you, this parking recommendation, are you involved with that?
Right now, we're still with VHB, the
We've got it,
engineers.
yeah.
I haven't received any report back from them.
I think
Did you?
They
Okay.
gave it, but I don't think Jim is prepared to talk about that.
No.
I can talk about that and the furniture after the NASDAQ thing, and
Okay.
Jim can.
All right, okay, that's good. All right, any more questions to Jim? Jim, thank you very much, and
Thank you, Jim.
appreciate you
Thank you.
staying on
Keep
time.
up the good work.
Keeping on track. Okay. Jack, you want to do some?
Okay, yes. Now we have folks from New England School Development Council. Come forward. If people don't have a copy of their reports, please get them with us. Take some time first to take copies of the reports. Hey, does he still? Did he show me sticking?
Hope so. I hope you caught that.
I don't think that's that one already.
Yeah, I just got 2 hard copies.
I'll take one. Okay, this is for each one. I probably can follow it on this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we start, are we going to ask questions by the doing it after
No,
the section?
why don't we wait till,
Let's ask them.
because they
You
may,
want to do each section, no? Want to do
Yeah,
one?
yeah, no.
Thompson and then ALP?
they're going to do
Separate.
the ALP and then ask the questions then, and then the
Then
Thompson,
Thompson,
okay?
okay.
I'd like to introduce John Kennedy and Marjorie Clark. They are the boots on the ground folks from NASDAQ who were actively involved with these reports. John was the lead in the ALP, and Marge helped out, I believe, a bit, or not? Not much. No, but Marge helped out on the Thompson, so, and that's John and Marge, and it's time to start. Okay.
Microphone system you have to be at this podium.
Can they take the mic?
The mic doesn't go that far.
Okay, well, first of all, we want to thank you very much, and also commend the school committee and administration for a forward-thinking approach. We have to acknowledge that we don't always encounter that, and so we hope that this is going to be very helpful to you. A little bit about NSDEC very quickly. NSDEC is the New England School Development Council. We have approximately 310 affiliates all over New England, and the organization originated out of the Harvard School of Education over 60 years ago. Our primary function is to try to help districts solve problems. So we're involved in lots of different activities having to do with searches, executive searches, strategic planning, best use of facility studies, and also we frequently engage in special studies for districts. I want to take this opportunity to thank the administration, the superintendent, the building principals, middle school and high school who are here tonight, and also Wendy, who has been tremendously helpful to us in facilitating, and all of the folks who participated in the project. We found a great deal of pride in the school system, and that's a very encouraging thing as you're an outside consultant coming in. That occurred time after time. Tonight, our purpose is to, first of all, review with you the alternative learning program study, and then we will move on to the middle school study, and we would invite questions at the end. Okay. There you go. This just gives you an idea of the team. Next. Okay, and the nature of this particular study, the alternative education study, it was a comprehensive review of the grades 7 through 12 learning program, alternative learning program. It focused on the current allocation of services and resources and anticipated allocation to meet the needs of the district as envisioned by the stakeholders that we talked to. The stakeholders were core curriculum teachers, literacy teachers, high school, middle school administrators, guidance personnel, and the truancy officer. We also wanted to note the study did not evaluate performance of individuals. The goal was to assist Newport in creating an alternative education program which will serve the district into the future. Now, the process we used, first of all, after we took on the project, there was an initial meeting with the superintendent, and at that point, the superintendent outlined the reasons that the school committee had commissioned the project and gave us specific details in terms of what the school committee was looking for, and those also had, of course, been incorporated into the scope of the project. We then went ahead and reviewed data that had been provided to us. We also employed generally accepted national standards as guidelines for the determinations of compliance, and we relied heavily on the National Center for Dropout Prevention out of Clemson University, which puts out the national standards. There were interviews with key stakeholders whom I've mentioned previously. There was an observation of the alternative learning program class while it was in session. I was involved in that. There were a number of follow-up calls to folks to just determine that, clarify information. And then we had an analysis of our summative results, and ultimately we developed the program information, which you're going to be taking a look at. And the format was pretty clear-cut. We first of all wanted to describe the existing alternative learning program. And then the key elements and best practices that one would look for as you move through a program and analyzed it. And then we have findings, and ultimately we have options and considerations for you folks to take a look at and contemplate over a period of time. Now, the program description, the key elements of the program, first of all, obviously, it's located in this building, and it uses the large computer lab, which is designated during the school time as the alternative learning program area. Had an enrollment listed in September of 32 students, and that shows you the breakdown. And then staff information, there are 4 core curriculum teachers, ELA, math, science, social studies, 2 literacy teachers that are involved 2 hours each per week, 1 special ed teacher who is involved 4 hours per week dealing with the IEP students, and there is also a high school guidance counselor available until 2:30 Monday through Thursday. And the students also have phys ed classes twice a week for 45 minutes. And then information on the schedule. Yep. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed, she moved ahead of me and I missed it. All right. The schedule is, Marge never steers me wrong, I have to tell you that. The schedule operates 4 days a week, Monday through Thursdays, and you can see the students arrive at approximately 1:45, and the classes begin here in this building at 2 p.m. And Mondays and Tuesdays are the days when they have their special physical education class for 45 minutes each day. And Wednesdays and Thursdays start with the students working on the core curriculum. And students who have been designated as being in need also receive literacy support. Sometimes that takes place outside of the lab in a smaller classroom. And then the special ed staff is available to work with the IEP students 4 hours per week. And then you can also see each day at 4 to 4:30 there is a lunch break, quote, lunch break, and then dismissal at 5:45. And the daily instructional time is 3 hours and 45 minutes, absent the 30-minute lunch period. Okay, now what's the model look like, the instructional model and the course of study? They use the APEX learning program, which is a computerized program, digital curriculum for the delivery of the core curriculum programming. And it offers courses, as you see, in math, science, English, social studies, and also world language. The concentration is mostly on the first 4. And grades 7 through 12 students meet in a computer room, which has 25 computer stations. And each student is assigned to an individual computer station. And they work on different core curriculum subjects. And as that takes place, the 4 core curriculum teachers circulate and direct, supervise, and assist the students with their work. And then key elements are, that we applied to the program, best practices. First of all, organizational structure. And you can see the pieces that fall under that. Next. And we also have curriculum and instruction. So first of all, organizational structure, then curriculum and instruction. And under that, we take a look with regard to curriculum. Key piece of this is it aligned with the Common Core and high school, middle school courses of study, remembering that the students are looking ultimately to graduate or looking ultimately to transition back into the high school or middle school. And so that's a key piece, and Common Core obviously is important. Do they utilize a variety of instructional assessment techniques? These are best practice standards. Are there curriculum elements included which address personal responsibility and self-discipline and provide opportunities for career exploration and work study? And lastly, is there an individual graduation and transitional plan for each of the students? Okay. And then the third component, so we have organization, we have curriculum, and then we have the program culture as the third component of the national standards that apply. And so under that, they talk in terms of providing sufficient access to support services, guidance, social work, school psychologists, developing plans and procedures to gain parental engagement and support, and then also transitional plans for the students coming in and for the students exiting the program. So these are all the standards upon which we based our analysis. And so now we get to the findings. What did we find as we moved through and studied the program? Okay. And first of all, we found the teacher-student ratios in the Newport program were within recommended national guidelines, as was the maximum student enrollment. It was well within the confines of national standards. Now, there is no written mission and vision for the program. However, the stakeholders identified the following bulleted items here as factors that they considered to be key goals of the program. And so they talked about dropout prevention, credit recovery, transitioning back to the middle school and high school programs, providing an alternative structure for those in need, and either graduation or GED attainment as being key goals. Okay. Now, important to note, although there was not a written mission, all of those goals which were listed are in line with national best practice standards. And so that was, we felt, an important piece. The discipline code, for the most part, we were told, is the discipline code which is used for Rogers High School. And then there are a set of specific classroom rules and procedures are also in place. And they also, several respondents felt that a review of the discipline procedures and development of a specific alternative learning program discipline code would be of assistance. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later. And then about leadership and supervision, everyone that we asked recognized that the supervision was under that of the high school principal. However, and this is fairly common as you go from place to place. However, best practice standards do suggest that some form of a designated on-site leadership is a key component, meaning on-site within the classroom or directing the specific program. And most respondents felt that that would be a positive benefit. Next. And then assessment of program progress toward goal attainment is another key element upon which programs are measured. And we found that although there is pretty extensive analysis of individual student performance and strategizing in terms of how to improve that, program goals for the whole program were not clearly evident. And there was a sense that this would be a positive addition. And then within the program, there are weekly Friday morning meetings. And during these meetings, communication occurs between the teachers, middle and high school administrators, guidance personnel, and designated parents. This was found to be a real plus. And this is a positive factor that we wanted to note. These meetings seem to work quite well. The sessions are viewed as effective and productive. We do there were several suggestions about expanding that communication to the wider school and to the wider community, and that's something that we'll be talking about in a couple of minutes. And also, several people referenced the development of a parental assistance and training program for the parents of the students who are participants, and that would be a consideration. And then with regard to curriculum and instruction, the APEX program is, we have been informed by the school personnel, is in line with the middle school and high school courses of study. The courses, we mentioned the courses provided, and then according to APEX, and now this is according to APEX, they have aligned all of their courses with the Common Core. And so that alignment has taken place. Alternative Learning Program staff members view the APEX program as a definite improvement. It was put in place last April, and they believe that it is a much more user-friendly type of program, and so they were pretty positive about it. Literacy instruction takes place for designated students and is provided by the 2 literacy instructors. I referenced that earlier. And during the regular APEX sessions, after each student chooses a core curriculum area upon which to work, the teachers circulate throughout the computer lab, assisting students with problems and providing instructional information. Stakeholders that we talked to indicate that other than the literacy sessions and the 2 phys ed classes which are provided each week, there is little formalized direct instruction offered during the course of the day, meaning separate classes or separate sessions. During the NSC classroom visit, which I made, I found that the students were very well behaved, and the rapport between the teachers and the students was very good. And so that was a positive note. Time on learning during the alternative learning sessions is approximately 3 hours and 15 minutes a day, absent the 30 minutes that we had previously talked about, which is the lunch break. And the program is in operation Monday through Thursday. Stakeholders generally felt that the time on learning available to deliver program services was insufficient. And the program does not have a career exploration or off-site work component. And this is, again, viewed as a need. The culture of the program culture, meaning what's it like, is it positive? NSC's analysis indicates that there is in place a process for transitioning the students, and this seems to work out quite well. There are, quote, emergency situations where the process has to be abbreviated, and sometimes that causes some issues. Respondents felt the process does need more consistency. And then with regard, stakeholders felt, and we agree, NSC agrees, that the present program's afternoon schedule creates a situation where student access to guidance and behavior support services is limited. And most felt that the location of the alternative learning program and high school students in the same instructional space, the middle school and the high school students in the same instructional space should be reviewed. And lastly, despite existing efforts on the part of teachers, administrators, guidance counselors, and truant officer, student attendance is viewed by most stakeholders as a significant issue continuing to create some difficulties. So what might be options and considerations for the school committee and for the administration? We developed these based on best practice. and based on the information that we gained from analyzing the program. And they are designed to be catalysts for further analysis and discussion. And so, taking a look at organizational structure, we think that it would be advantageous to develop a mission and vision statements, and they would define the values and facilitate the next step, which would be developing annual goals. We also think that this should be publicized so that the wider community and the school community are aware. We believe that developing an alternative discipline code which adheres to the basic tenets of the high school discipline code, but incorporates national alternative learning standards and best practices would be good. And establishing an alternative learning program leadership position. This could be, take a variety of forms, which is charged with supervising the program on a day-to-day basis would be advantageous. And then we think that by establishing program goals and assessing them, that would give the school committee, administration, and everyone a sense in terms of how the program was progressing. And also consider options for changing the schedule so as to better accommodate students' needs and increase key service availability. Consider a schedule which more closely mirrors that of the high school. And this would provide increased access to service providers, and that would be, we think, a positive step forward. And continue ongoing communication between the alternative learning teachers, middle and high school staff, guidance personnel, and parents. And we think that expanding communication to the wider community would be advantageous. Some districts have an established alternative education webpage on the school website. And lastly, as we get into the last two sections, what to do with curriculum and instruction, consider a realignment of instruction delivery, which incorporates, first of all, direct instruction component for each of the curriculum areas. And this would provide opportunities for the teachers to direct individual student instruction, address individual learning needs, and foster positive student-teacher relationship. This is not to say that those relationships do not exist now. As I mentioned previously, there appeared to be a good rapport. The direct instruction component may also provide opportunities to gain additional time on learning and operational efficiency, which is important. Expansion of assessment techniques would also be important. And we would, the APEX learning program is a key component of the program now, and we would advise that the district should consider continuation of that program as a key component. And provision of continued literacy and special education support for designated alternative learning program students. Okay. And then continuing utilization of separate instructional spaces for middle school and high school students. Incorporation of career exploration and work study into the program. And again, scheduling it so that the instructional schedule more closely parallels that of Rogers High School. And this would expand access to guidance and so on, but it also would provide middle school and high school students with an opportunity to become involved in extracurricular programming, which research shows is a definite connect for many students. It's another factor which causes them to be connected to the school. And with regard to the culture, continue existing efforts to facilitate the transition. Notice all three of these say continue, so that implies that some of this work is already being done. And so it's also continued to involve teachers, administration, guidance, and the truancy officer and parents in a focused effort to decrease absenteeism and expand students' sense of connection. And lastly, continue parent meeting and contacts regarding student progress and consider the development of that parental assistance training program. Conclusion. The goal of the study was to create, to help the district to create an alternative program that will serve the Newport School District well into the future. We have identified several findings and options. We think that they are at least beginnings points for future discussion. We want to thank all of the stakeholders who participated. We had tremendous cooperation. And we received great information in terms of insights. And also the administration and school committee, we would want to commend for recognizing the need to engage in the study, which will provide a basis for continued improvement. That's the piece on the...
Hope for questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Leary.
I'll do a quick generic comment, and I'm sure other people have a lot of questions on the report. First of all, if you go back to tape, we tape all these meetings.
Yep.
And if you go back to September 11th, 2012, there's 4 things asked for. 1, take ideas from other places.
Yep.
I don't see that. 2, less costly options. I don't see that. 3, look at what other people are doing elsewhere. I don't see that. 4, different delivery models. It may be somewhat there. I'm not sure it's somewhat delivery models there or not. But more importantly to me, and I will not accept this report, and I don't mean, I'm not one of these people who fluff things up. You can tell in a few minutes I've been here.
Yep.
But I'm sure you can. I'm not a person that's, but to me, you keep on saying stakeholders. I forgot how many times you said it, 9 or 10 times stakeholders. Do you think the Newport School Committee is a stakeholder?
Absolutely.
How come you never talked to us?
Because we had a discussion with the, extensive discussion with the superintendent, who outlined for us the scope of the project, which was, at least to our understanding, developed by the school committee. The other things...
Not to interrupt you, but I told you, go back to September 11th, get his tape, and listen to all the things we asked to put on there, and not one of them was covered.
With all due respect, what we did cover was we utilized nationally recognized standards that were used to evaluate the extent to which program components were in compliance with standards and best practice. That's number 1. Number 2, the other thing is that we have been involved in discussions and analysis with regard to other programs. And we are prepared to provide to the superintendent a listing of programs, some in Rhode Island, some in Massachusetts, which could be visited or contacted in order to get additional information or to get models. But here's the situation, sir, and I think this even was somewhat an awareness development as we moved along. There is no program, to our knowledge at least, which is in this state viewed as a model program. There isn't any, because they don't designate model programs at the State Department. What there are many good programs, many probably excellent programs, but they all differ tremendously. Some programs have a focus on credit recovery. Some programs have a focus on career education. And so they have different components as we move from place to place. We are prepared to provide to the district, to the Superintendent Administration Office, a listing of places that we think would make sense for him and for the principals to contact in order to gain additional information. But the first step has to be for the district to decide where they're heading and which are the values that they consider to be most important. And once they see that, then we've got
programs that emphasize credit recovery. We've got some others that emphasize career education. And we have that list, which we would provide with some contact names to the administration.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Phelan?
My question is, what were we looking for? You said that you were told what we were looking for. Can you repeat that back to us?
Sure. We were told that you were looking for an analysis of the existing model and a determination of how that model could best serve how an alternative learning program model could best serve the district into the future. And so that's what the scope of the contract indicated. And so we then said, at the same time, what standards are we going to use? And we utilized national standards and interviews with folks who are actually working with the program to get a sense of how it was operating so that we could make that determination.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just one more thing.
Sure.
I just hope next time if you do something like this or some other group, that you would at least talk to the school committee members that voted on this, because this is nothing for what I thought we were going to get, or at least an idea. I was trying to see what was out in the outside world, so we get new ideas coming in.
And in all
And
fairness,
I'm not-
in all fairness to me, I did bring that up to NSDEC several times about trying to find other places that we could visit. And I think John tried to explain why that was not possible.
Just because.
Well, it's possible to visit. It was not possible to visit before before we conclude the study, because the various places that one would visit or look at would be in order to gain a better sense as to how does this particular district do it, because this is something we value, and we want to try to institute it here.
It's nothing that I thought when I voted for it, because I think the program, for the last 3 years, I've been complaining about it. It's not working efficiently, it's not fair to the kids, and I was hoping to get motivation to get something done here. To me, looking at this, it's the same old stuff, just a little switcheroo here and there. And it's not, you didn't get the instruction or whatever it is. I'm just disappointed with it.
I think I gave the instructions clear that we were not happy with the current system.
Right.
That NSDEC was, am I correct on that?
That's correct.
That the school committee wasn't happy with the current system, we didn't think it was working, and that NSDEC was to come in and do an analysis and come up with a plan of action to correct the problem. And I think that a lot of that is reflected here.
Not much.
Let me ask Chair.
In all due,
Tough to find.
again, with all due respect, the program, the findings and considerations, first of all, take a look at the present organizational structure and make recommendations or at least considerations with regard to that. They take a look at the present time setup and also the amount of time that's provided for instruction. They take a look at the when the program operates versus the high school program. They take a look at the need for expanded instructional components. They take a look at the need for additional assessment. It takes a look at the need for a designated leader. It takes a look at the need to further address the truancy issue. It takes a look at the need to involve parents to a greater degree. Those are the things that we found.
It's not you, to be honest. I blame myself for it fell through the cracks or something. I just, you didn't get the proper instructions.
I'd like to make two comments. One
Sure.
is,
Not mine.
you talked about literacy, you have special sessions.
Yeah.
And yet math is our big problem in Rhode Island. When you say literacy, do you mean literacy and math, or?
Well, we would advocate that there would be greater time on learning.
Yeah,
Time on
you
learning
mentioned
is a
that.
key.
Yeah.
And how the district reallocates that time on learning is a decision that the district leadership would have to make.
A more, less definite or easier answer, a more difficult one to answer is, I think it was the New York Times thing about the last 2 weeks or so, had an alternate school which got very much involved with the career and tech school. And you didn't mention, you mentioned a career a little bit in your comments, but if we were to redesign this, would you try to to get a collaboration, would go downstairs with the woodworking and the automotive people?
I think that would be for the district to review. I'm not familiar with the existing programming. But what we did feel strongly was that the fifth day of the week was initially intended to be a career training component. We think that that would be a very beneficial piece. Research shows that students who are seeing that type of connection and experiencing the hands-on approach and seeing the connection to, after high school, enjoy their work more and become more involved in the program and in the school.
Okay, I just want to make sure that door is still open if we redesign it, yeah.
That was one of the major considerations that we had listed. Clearly, career tech would be important.
Yes, Mrs. Gaines.
Starting on page 22, these seem to me, I interpreted these as suggestions for moving forward with the program.
Right.
This is what I was looking for. Especially the piece on career paths. I don't know how you worded it. But in my experience, when kids are connected, there's not a problem of truancy. And I don't see that connection in our program. So I was looking, and I see you have it here. I don't know if we could go into an expansion of that. How would we, maybe using that Friday would be good. But having more personnel, or having a designated person to direct the outside placement for kids into career opportunities seems to be what we need to do.
We feel that.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, we think that the career component is an important piece of any program, and because it does help students to make that connection. When we suggest leadership for the program, excuse me, what we're suggesting is that there would be a person, it could be a teacher, it could be a person who does that as a stipended position, such as a department thing. That's for the district to decide. But to have somebody who's responsible for moving the program forward on a day-to-day basis, it's and we think that would be a real piece. And in this community, you have a very large service industry, and the potential is great to try to bring the community in and to have the students engaged in activities which are going to assist them, and they say, oh, now I know why I'm taking that math class. Now I know why I'm doing this, because there's that utility. They see the utility, and it's a real plus.
Well, I still got one more time.
Get the floor started. Still first. Still number one.
Okay, all right. The whole problem, the reason we need an alternative learning program is the very fact that some kids simply don't connect with seat time and books. They need a hands-on experience. And I'd like to see this program more hands-on. I know we have to learn how to read, but there are ways to learn to read when you're doing something with your hands.
Sure.
And I'd like to see some guidance in how we could go about getting to that place.
And there are districts that move in that direction, and it doesn't have to happen overnight. It's a developmental process, but the fact that this committee, our understanding was that the committee wanted to find get a sense of how can the program, how is it operating now, and how can we improve upon it?
Yeah.
That was our sense.
Just one thing, and that's what I told you. And additionally, though, speaking to Bob's issue about the finance, are you listening, Robert? Okay, the major savings will be by moving this to the regular school day. It will give you maximum flexibility. It's really cost ineffective now. We had this discussion to have 4 teachers in a room with sometimes 12 kids every day. So hence, my thought was that by moving it to the school day, you'd be able to be more flexible in terms of your instructional, programming, and certainly that would be a cost savings.
To follow up on that, presently there are 900 minutes a week dedicated to instruction. And so that translates to approximately at 45 minutes, that translates to 20 teaching periods. And so therefore, that's a part of it. It's also a question of, could you, are there more efficient ways in which to operate the program and also at the same time gain greater instruction time? And so there are many possibilities that the district could explore. And I'm sorry I interrupted you. I didn't mean to do that.
Charlie?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Bowen.
First of all, in your defense, if you go back and read the RFQ, you did exactly what we asked you to do. So, this is a jumping off point for what we need to do now, because there's, a lot of work. I think one thing that really jumped out to me is in December, we were sent the attendance rate, and the high school attendance rate is 37% of the high school students are absent on a daily basis. And so we don't have very high expectations, though, because we only have 25 computer stations and 32 kids. So we don't even expect the kids to be there, because if they all showed up one day, there wouldn't even be a computer for them to work on. So we've really got to connect these kids to adults. I don't know, I would like to have seen if we have pacing guides for these students, how many have ended up graduating. I mean, those are just things that come to my mind as we really look into this. And I hope that we adopt some of these things right away and don't waste the rest of the year. What the things that we can, maybe getting leader on board, at the site right away, and some other things, so.
Yeah, and I think NSDEC understood that the committee and administration and teachers wanted a radical shift in this, and knew it wasn't working. What I guess we weren't able to do was find a cookie cutter thing that we could go up to, and some of us were hoping that would be available. Evidently, it's not.
Right.
So.
And we, to be honest with you, as I had said previously, we did make several contacts. If there was it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and if there was a star in the sky, we would all know about it.
Dr. Flowers?
Yeah, when you had mentioned, I think Mrs. Boland said, 32 students and you had X number of computers, but you did say when you started off that each of the students had access to a computer. I understood that meant that some of the teachers may have been working independently, or separately rather, with some of the other students.
No.
No.
The day I was there were 19 students.
Fewer youngsters, so the
Yeah.
32 may have been
Yeah.
the max, so it's a flexible number.
Yeah.
Also,
That isn't to say, though, that
It could
the
happen.
instructors did not work with the students as they were involved with each of
involved
their
on the computers, yeah.
computer programs.
And you
They
did
circulated-
recommend some of the more direct instruction. On one of the pages here, because you said they do not have the mission and vision statement, but they have identified the goals. And you also said that some alternate plans deal with credit recovery, some other places do have the alternative structure uses, you mentioned how different programs have different goals. And here we go again, we are trying to get everything in.
Right.
It seems that this program, with a relatively small number of students, is really trying to cover a lot of ground. I, for one, I don't know about anyone else sitting at the table here, but I think that it's, at least looking at the positives, is that you found a number of, quite a few, good points, good comments to make to the teachers who are, or the personnel who are working on this, and I think we should not disregard that.
Absolutely.
Because initially, when we were looking at this, I think we thought it was going to be this horrid report and all kinds of doom and gloom, so at least we look at what is working, and when you refer to the stakeholders, the real, honest-to-goodness, true stakeholders are the people who are working with the kids themselves, hopefully the parents, and that is something that the attendance rate and the parental, I'm not saying interest, but parental cooperation is probably from the kindergarten right straight through, so not just the youngsters here. And that's something that we have to look at. And maybe whatever positive points come from this and the steps that are made to improve the alternative learning program, just we might be able to adapt some of those strategies to all the rest of the classes too.
Well,
We can
that
hope.
Connection is a key, no matter whether you're in a physics class or any other class. You have to be able to connect.
And the idea of the work study that you may mention too, that sometimes is that little carrot
Yep.
that gets the kids to want
As
to come.
is participation in extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mrs. Gaines, last time.
You mentioned the class you observed, there were 19 students.
Correct.
19 out of 32 is the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why we needed this study. What do we need to do? We get the kids in by recommendation. How do we keep them? How do we keep their interest? And how do we get them out? And you can't do it if they're not there.
That's correct. That's correct. And it's not unique to Newport. It's a problem that districts confront everywhere. And the key is connection. And and at the same time, a set of standards that students have to maintain. So it's a balance. Parental involvement, which we have suggested, is a key. Sometimes some assistance to parents in terms of training would be beneficial. You know, I don't know about all of you, I can't speak for all of you, but I've had a question or two when I had a teenager. What do I do next? So I think, you know, those are things that any parent could benefit from.
Mr. Chairman?
I think we have to, let's wrap this discussion up by 9 o'clock, because we have another, and then we're only halfway through our agenda, so let's go ahead, Mr. Leary.
Yeah, I just wanted a quick, couple things you said. Now, going back to September 11th, you should review that tape. Mrs. Gaines said something a minute ago, more than just seats and books, times, whatever it was, and you said districts are moving in that direction, quote unquote.
Excuse me, go back to the
Mrs.
first
Gaines said
statement.
something like, we're moving more than just seat times, more than seat times, we need books, something like that, in the room. She's talking about the classroom, the ALP classroom.
I said that in September?
No, just a minute ago. Go back, want to review the tape. I'll protect you here, I'm not protect you, going through. But you said districts are moving in that direction. So again, I say to you, the first thing we asked for in September was take ideas from other places. So where is that idea that we should be looking for in this report?
Starting on page 22,
The idea does not from other districts, doesn't talk about the doing, moving in other directions.
but it gives
No,
us,
let's not have, let's have one person talk.
Yep,
it gives us suggestions.
I have it all here, I know.
Those are all
Not other
suggestions.
districts.
Okay,
Go ahead.
are you finished?
Yeah, just one quick
I
thing.
was just talking to him.
The cookie cutter idea Dr. Ambrosi said, you know, again, that goes back to taking ideas from other places. And that's what I think I wanted in this report.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for in this report. And I don't see that. So I know it's only a draft. It says the draft, so maybe you need to go back and revisit that and look at some ideas from other districts and go in that way.
The ideas that you see in terms of the key elements, which are then used to evaluate the program and which then the considerations are based upon, are ideas that several districts utilize in organizing their program. They're what we refer to as best practices. And the best practices come from a national commission which tries to say, okay, what is going to make a program work? What are the key elements that you need to put in place? And so we did that, and we also did some discussion with other districts which have alternative programs. But as I mentioned, they vary tremendously. And so therefore, what we wanted to suggest to the superintendent and to the principals would be, when you have a decision that says, how do we know how to get this credit recovery thing moving? We can point you in the direction of some people who are doing it well. If someone is talking about career education and work study, here's a school that's doing it, and we will provide you with some contact names. But to be honest, we're not going to provide them at a public meeting
You want to say something?
with phone numbers.
Did you raised your hand?
I did. I've worked in this district.
Could you do me a favor? Just go to the microphone, yeah.
I'm Lisa Olenek. I'm a teacher at Thompson. And before
You talk,
coming-
talking.
You have to get to the mic.
I'm Lisa Olenek. I'm a teacher at Thompson, but before coming to Thompson, I did about 12 years in alternative programs in different places in the state. And alternative programs in different places of the state mean different things based on the population of kids that you're servicing. So you're not going to go out and look at a program and say, oh, that works, but bring it back to Newport. It may not work. You have to decide, what are the needs of our kids? What are the needs of our population? And then build a program around that. I think what he's presenting here, I agree with you. He doesn't come up with any quick and dirty. But you have a starting point. I think one of the things that's really important after having worked in alternative programs for a long time, kids need to feel part of a community. I think you did a good job of addressing that. Having worked in some of the alternative programs, when those kids feel cast away and demoralized, it's hard to bring them back. But if you have a program that connects them, whether they're middle school or high school, in either a pathway back to that school or a pathway to higher education or to a job, but it has to be established. And I think it needs to be an individualized learning plan per kid. Enough said.
No, wonderful said. I just take it from the other end of the spectrum, and that's, we're dealing with this at the pre-K, K, because I am a firm believer that if you don't read by third grade, you're not going to make it. And I think the attendance follows the fact that the kid is discouraged, he drops out, and to think that we're going to solve this very difficult problem at the kid gets into 10th grade, and is very, very difficult. I think you've outlined the problems, and I think Mrs. Olmec has pointed out to us that whatever we structure is going to have to be structured for Newport and not for, say, Barrington, or not for the Davies School or something. And it's going to be a very difficult, long job. And maybe my own thought would be to have a follow-up with you at some time on this subject, because it's not going to be easy to redesign this program that's going to be satisfactory to everybody.
It's going to be a great challenge. There's no misrepresenting that. It's going to be a huge challenge. Any district that engages in this process finds it to be that. However, the benefit is huge.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to move this program and ask you guys to switch places and
Okay.
switch topics.
Yeah. Let me ask.
I'm not as good at this as...
Is that true?
Marge, could I ask that we just hit the highlights? The
Sure.
school committee has had this, and I've had a request to just go over the highlights, not the
Right.
really nitty-gritty types of things.
And I think that, the format that I used for the PowerPoint will facilitate that, because I have not, you have the detailed text in the full report, and I have basically provided an outline. So I will tiptoe through the outline so that everyone here has the overview of the report, and the details can be found in the 15 or so page report that you have already received. So first of all, thank you very much for having us here tonight. We appreciate it. And my involvement was with John. We were the two main players for the review of Frank E. Thompson Middle School organization and related service delivery. There's a lot to a middle school, so you have to focus on what you can, given the nature of the study. So that's what we focused on. And our project team included myself and John, as I said, and we also have an executive consultant in Don Kennedy, no relation to John Kennedy. They just happened to work together at NSDEC, and they let me work there too, even though my name is not Kennedy. And then Art Bentoncourt, who is our executive director. Moving on, the specific nature of the study, there were two highlights that I have here. They're from the RFP. And you can read them for yourself, but it's basically organization and related service delivery, and looking at the current middle school model to determine its efficacy and consider possible areas for improvement. The process was that we went through, we reviewed documents provided by the district. We spent a total of 4 days at Thompson Middle School, John and I. We had multiple interviews, visited classes, we, at every grade level, 6 through 8, and we also visited team meetings. And we also met twice with the faculty administrative structure team after school hours, and we thank them for their involvement there. And we are very familiar with research and best practices. We visit middle schools throughout New England. It's not something that's new to us, but there's a lot written on, there are whole books on the subject, believe me. The report format, we have 3 aspects: the key elements of the middle school, the findings that we have from our study, and considerations for the future in Newport. The key elements are not something that we just make up. It comes from a National Middle School Association, and there's a lot of research that came together to actually create middle schools a number of years ago. But these are the key elements that you will find in middle schools: grade level teaming, 120 or fewer students per team. That would depend on the number of teachers on the team. The student-teacher ratio of 1 to 25 or less, which 25 would be the maximum that you'd ever want. Child-centered practices and culture, common planning time, separate building areas for the teams, in other words, designated geography for the team to work within, and then team staffing, stability over time, because teams make a tremendous difference for academic performance, and they need time to really form teams that work well together and have stability 3 or more years. Findings, we broke down into 5 areas, because it was a lot: structure and organization, staffing, current curriculum development, NECAP results, and then additional findings that we had from our observations and interviews, strengths and challenges. The structure and organization, grades 5 through 8 since 2009-10. Currently, the students at grade 5 are equitably distributed, and I go into detail about how the 7 teachers are organized. But the 5th grade has fluctuated over time as far as the staffing. Students in grades 6 through 8 are equitably distributed, and there are 2 4-person teams at each of those grade levels. There was a redesign implemented in 2010-11, and we heard a lot about that. I don't think anybody we interviewed didn't say something about the redesign, and these are the elements of the redesign, which I'm sure you're familiar with. They were a part of the concept for the new redesign. The staffing was the first area that we looked at, and I mentioned the grade 5 fluctuations. They've gone from 6 people on the grade level the first year they were at the middle school, then 8 the following year, and for the last 2 years, they've had 7 teachers at that grade level. In this current school year, the total enrollment on October 1st was 574 students with 31 academic subject teachers. That would mean, ELA, science, social studies, and math. There has been a slight increase over time in special subject areas, but nothing significant. And there has been some fluctuation regarding the special education resource staff from as high as 10 staff members. This is just for the resource staff, not for more intensive students. Was 2010-11, and then this current school year, there are 6.5 special education resource staff.
Excuse me, it went from 11 to 6?
Excuse me, it was in 2010-11, there were 10.
Oh.
And this current year, there are 6.5. And of course, that is also driven by special education requirements, which students, how many students have special education needs. The stability, and there's been a stability in administrative staffing, stability with the exception of a reduction of 1 secretary and addition of a lunch aide. There's been guidance stability as far as having 2 full-time guidance staff. And then as far as the other areas, reading, ESL, and the nurse, reading has been reduced from 4 to 3 reading specialists. ESL has been increased from 0.5 to 1, which is quite common these days. There's an increase in the number of students who need ESL services in many places. And then the full-time nurse continues. Curriculum development, we did not examine in detail the curriculum, but obviously instruction requires curriculum to deliver. So we learned about how it's been revised and developed over time. The grade 5 was developed by a district instructional team, grades 6 and 8, by grade level subject teachers, and that the vertical curriculum, looking from grade to grade, is planning and work on that takes place after school hours once a month. The NECAP results, I have to echo the good news here. When you have year after year, either most or a vast majority of the target areas were met with sufficient progress in the 2007-8 of 24 out of 25 target areas. Following year, 25 out of 25. The next year, 10 out of 12, and that's very, very good news. But there are some trends there as far as where there has been insufficient progress. It's tended to be with students with disabilities, or in this last 2011-12. I know you've gotten some recent information, but we didn't have that when we were visiting and wrote this report. That white students and students with disabilities, those 2 areas were not met in 2011-12. But the big news that I herald is also that during the time of the information that we reviewed, the targeted attendance rate has surpassed the state target of 90%. And that's wonderful. It shows that the students at this middle school are coming to school. And as you said earlier about the alternative learning program, if they're not there, they can't learn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is fabulous news. Additional findings, we gathered all of the information that we had, and we came up with strengths and with challenges. One of the strengths is that the vast majority of the staff interviewed embrace the middle school model. They really feel very committed to their work, and they're very child-centered and dedicated in meeting the needs of
children in this age range from grades 5 to 8. They have a capable administration and leadership that's also committed to continuing to fully implement and run, administer an effective middle school model. The next one is parent communication is a high priority. I can't tell you how many times during various meetings that we were attending that someone would say, oh, we need to let, the parents know. We need to get the parents in. This is how, when they're available, this kind of thing. The parents were an important part of the puzzle. And the middle school model with common planning time promotes in-depth knowledge of the students, and they work well together. And I can't tell you, there was representative from every team that met with us, and the wonderful things that they had to say. We weren't going to, say who said them. We were taking this in confidence, but they had wonderful things to say about the people that they worked with and how hard they worked together. The common planning time is very effective and efficient for grades 6 through 8, and that the in improving instructional time, IIT sessions observed focused on the needs of children, many children, in a very short period of time, which shows the challenge before them. The additional strengths, the 4-person teaching teams work well, are effective, and the staff is very supportive of the 4-person team. Building and maintaining effective grade-level teaching teams over multiple years is also a strength, because there are some teams that have been together for some time, but it doesn't apply to all of the teams, all grade levels. Next one is parents' conferences with the teaching team address the needs of the middle school students and their parents, because middle school students, I worked at a middle school for 5 years, they don't want their parents to know what's going on. You got to get the parents on board and in, so we can talk about the child and help them along. And then the staff viewed the student behavior as improved since the redesign, which was something that was one of the goals there. Additional findings, transitioning practices. We heard a lot about the transitioning practices. We reviewed the forms. We heard about special events at the grade 4 to 5. Also, how they work very hard to prepare the students for the high school, as well as making sure as they go from grade level to grade level within the middle school that the students are well prepared for the change. And the teachers in all content areas utilize a similar itinerary for daily instruction. It was very impressive. Kids don't have to go in, I'm in another class. They go in, they have the warm-up, it really is a smooth and helpful to students at this age who have difficulty sometimes with moving from place to place. Challenges also start with assigning students to based on their academic performance. Seems to be working well at Thompson Middle School, but it doesn't allow heterogeneous grouping in science and social studies because the scheduling is very tight. Reassigning students in a different group within their team during the year does happen, but it can sometimes be difficult, especially when the group that the student might be moving into, based on their academic level at the time, is a large class already. So that's another challenge that the middle school folks face. There are many students to review in one common planning time, and John and I were both impressed by the meetings we visited, but they do have to talk about a lot of students, because there are a lot of students that have needs. And everybody should have their moment in the sun, where the teachers have time to say, this is how the student's progressing, even if it's not an issue. And then with an involved student population, it doesn't allow time to examine individual student work. One of the components of a professional learning community is that the teachers, and you have it built into a middle school professional learning community, that they would have more time to review students' individual work over time and see, is what I've been doing as effective as it might be. I'm not saying they don't do a lot of wonderful work, but a little bit of additional time would be very valuable there. Another challenge is the special subject staff are not usually available during common planning time because, of course, that's where the students are. So they do work it out so that if there's a need to have a specialist there, they can work it out, but it's not always easy. And then another challenge is communicating the outcomes of the common planning time to all those who need to be communicated with. They do a lot of emailing and taking notes and getting information shared around, but that's a challenge. And another challenge on the next page is grade 5 has 3- and 4-person teams, but no common planning time. And I know that they're considered an elementary grade level, but they do now teams, so that's a challenge. Although they're up to the task, I know. And then more time is needed for math instruction, given, and this came from several angles, results of recent tests, the anticipated difficulty of the math concepts in the Common Core curriculum. So that's something that came up, math instruction. But what we saw was excellent. A longer intervention block would be beneficial. That came up time and time again. And that grade 5 students have recess in a small area, but there's no play structure or field for their use. And I know that's just part of the lay of the land. You're not going to build a play field next door. So we end with our considerations. And we have several slides here. One that says that Thompson Middle School is providing an effective middle school program for an involved student population, and that the considerations are for your consideration, just like with the other program that you just heard about, where these are not necessarily, this is exactly what you need to do. These are for your future consideration, intended to promote and improve the middle school model into the future. You have a good model, but you need, as you go forward, you're going to need to keep on top of it. The NSDEC projected enrollment provided in February 2012 projected slight changes. This was not a part of our regular report, but because we had access to it, I thought I would just cite it, that there's been slight changes in enrollment for grades 5 through 8 with a high of 614 in 2017-18 as we look to the future, and a low of 565 in 2021, and a reported enrollment this current year of 574 students. So we're not looking at a huge variation, at least in the short run, for the Newport middle school population, but it needs to be updated and, annually to anticipate any changes that may occur so you can plan for program adjustments. And the 4 areas for considerations are instructional services, academic performance, group practices, and special subject scheduling. The instructional services, currently, for the most part, the 4-person team for all grades 6 through 8 groups at TMS, and this has been, a model has been, allows teaching teams to work together for successive years, strengthening the effectiveness of a teaching team over time. And if you look at the research, if you have continuity, then you have effective teaming, and you have academic performance reflects that. With certification requirements, continuing subject-specific curriculum changes, and increasing academic expectations, this model has been successful. The continuity in teaming over time is an important element of an effective middle school and needs to continue to be a part of the Thompson Middle School planning. We're asked to comment on 2-person teaching teams, so we have. They have not, we understand that they have been considered but not implemented at Thompson Middle School. And they require, one of the comments is that they require teachers to become certified in additional subjects and maintain that certification, which can be very challenging. They limit the number of professionals teaching each student, and one of the benefits of a team of 4 people is that you have each person is looking at the student through their curriculum area and their classroom experiences. If you reduce the teams to 2, you have 2 problem solvers, not 3 or 4 problem solvers sitting at the table. It wouldn't have if there was no staffing increase for guidance, reading specialists, ESL, and so forth, there would be less access to those specialists because there would be twice as many common planning times for these people to oversee. So that would be a real shortcoming. And we were also asked to comment on the junior high model. In our experiences and all the places we visit and the research we do, it is no longer a model that is considered to be state-of-the-art. It doesn't have the coordination, the collaboration, and the success in meeting the diverse needs of middle school students today. And well-conceived and implemented middle schools meet the needs of students in this age group with the challenges and special programming that they benefit from. Academic performance is one of our consideration areas. One of the things as you move forward, you need to continue to monitor closely is the test results in all of the state testing. As I said, you've been doing well. Just a couple of areas of need, one that being math. So the second consideration is to continue to track specifically the math progress, especially for the subgroups where they have not met the requirements and the targets. And if they were to continue, here's an example where you need to continue to monitor. If they were to continue, some districts have gone to a math specialist or coach on their staff, as well as increasing time spent on math instruction, which some of the staff members had mentioned as well. Academic performance considerations continued is to provide common planning time for all grade levels with teaching teams and to allow time to examine student work and determine instructional approaches. We have RTI, response to intervention. We have PBIS, positive behavioral intervention and support. We have the institution of the new Common Core. There's a lot that needs to be addressed, and it's not an easy thing. And then continuity and teaming over time is an important element and needs to continue to be a part of the long-term plan. Grouping practices. TMS is encouraged to continue to review and refine the grouping practices. Students are currently heterogeneously grouped in most special subjects and grouped by achievement level in core academic subjects. Only time will tell how that is going to roll out. We have seen other districts that have made some similar redesigns and are also monitoring how things progress. And then the special subject scheduling. We heard about the new Pell Elementary School earlier tonight. With closing all of the elementary schools and having one, there will be a greater efficiency of scheduling possible. Right now, there's a lot of traveling time back and forth, and so there should be some efficiency that's gained, and it may be possible to adjust the schedule for shared specialists and increase specialist flexibility at Thompson Middle School. Everyone was saying how they'd like to increase the intervention block, maybe if there's some specialists around for longer or for not traveling quite as much, there might be some good things that could happen there. Our conclusions are, with the goal of the new, the NSDEC study, I've reiterated that, and then we have that the NSDEC has identified many findings which indicate that the model is working well. Next bullet, I'm sorry for the typo, consideration should be viewed as points for further discussion, planning, and decision-making, not as conclusions. We're saying, this is what's working, these are the things you need to focus on as you go forward. The NSDEC team thanks all who participated. I can't tell you, everyone at the middle school was just absolutely unbelievable. It was wonderful. Brought me back to my days in the classroom in middle school. The instructional services at Thompson Middle School are appropriately coordinated and delivered efficiently and effectively, and meet the needs of the middle school students and their families and reflect best practices. And we just want to echo that so that you can continue to do your good work. I see a lot of middle school staff sitting here tonight, so despite the beginning of the meeting, I hope you go back to your schools tomorrow, at least knowing that you've been recognized for the fine job that you do. And John and I, on behalf of NSDEC, would like to thank the Newport School Administration and the school committee for this opportunity to study the middle school, and we commend you for recognizing the need to embark on this study, and we hope that it will serve you as you go forward.
Thank you. You're going to take some questions, I presume?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions out that
We
end?
have the light bulb of the last one.
Mr. Chairman, no, so I have a...
Mr. Leary?
Yeah, I have, again, let me go back to what I said. I understand where Mr. Sullivan's coming from, but we asked for 3 or 4 things on September 11th video. To take ideas from other places, number 1. 2, less costly options. And 3, different delivery models. Now, one of the things in there, less costly options, was pertaining to Thompson. Because the fact that, and the school committee voted to do it, and that's fine, that's why you have a board of directors. You have an 8th grade class with 120 kids. You could have done that with one team. One team. You could have done that in a contract where it's set up, which would have been 4 less core teachers, okay? So the school committee chose to do that, not to do that, and follow with the practices. But what we were asking for, at least what I was asking for in September, when we asked these things, was show us a different delivery model. Show me another way middle school do it. They teach 4 classes. The social studies teaches 4 social studies classes. Now they have another one they do in a day. Science teaches these 4 classes. We just want to see what other options are available. Not to say the school committee is going to adopt it. You know, I'm sure they wouldn't. But I want to see what was out there. And then you spent a lot of time on grade 5. Now, I'm not disparaging grade 5 teachers here, but if you look at this, the RFQ, it says the Newport School Committee Public Schools District seeks a review of its student instructional organization and related service delivery for middle schools grades 6 through 8. The RFQ. You spend time dealing with grade 5, which has nothing to do with what we asked for. So again, I know I'm mixed words here. I'm disappointed with the whole thing. I understand, Mr. Sullivan, you're right. What we can do is meet as a committee and ask you for other ideas, for other options from other places. And that's probably what we need to do at this point, to get some different delivery models and see where we're at, where we're going.
Anybody else down from the end?
Disagree.
Anybody in the audience want to?
I'll comment. I think they did a good job spelling out middle school model, junior high model, and other delivery models that are not best practice. I'm assuming that's where it comes from? That best practice is the middle school model, which is what we're doing. Other service delivery models, the only alternative to that I know of is either elementary or junior high. So we are either middle school or we're junior high. So I think what they're saying is we're doing a good job as a middle school model. And to look into other models, why would we waste your time, your energy, your money in a junior high model, which we know based on research is an ineffective model?
We have to cut you off because we're getting really late here.
I can't answer that.
Go ahead.
We did explore the 2-member team model. It is used in some districts. It's used more as a transitional model for the students coming up from the elementary. We found, as Marge explained, that there were several concerns with that model, especially as we move into the Common Core emphasis. And one of the major concerns is the certification issue. And having teachers who are certified in 2 subjects is extremely challenging and risks the loss of continuity of the team in the event that teams had to be restructured in order to accommodate that. What we saw and what our scope asked us to look at was the goal would be to create an instructional delivery system that would serve the district's middle school well into the future. We did feel, and I'm not going to elaborate on this, but we did feel that since fifth grade is housed in the building, it was important to take a look at how that operates. And so we did provide that information. But we think that this is what we do. If we see something and we believe it to be true, we say it.
Mr. Chairman?
The middle school model, from our perspective, is working very effectively in this district.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think that, oftentimes we're here looking at programs, and it's usually because we're unhappy with results. I don't want to go unnoticed that the middle school scores are going in the right direction. And I mean, and that's usually the time that we get into trouble when they're not doing that, and they are doing that. And I think that, if anything comes out of this, those scores are going in the direction they should be going in, and that's what we're all about.
And you can be very proud of them.
It's
Mr.
also
Crowley?
a very, you feel safe when you visit that middle school. And I've been in middle schools where you don't feel so safe, and I'm an experienced administrator and a principal, but you feel it's a safe, happy, child-centered place. The kids know one another, and they know their teachers and administrators. That's very important.
Mr. Crowley?
Right, so I'll say this from actually mostly a parent perspective. I have 4 children in Newport Public Schools. So if we simply go back 2 years, let's go to 2010. Proficiency in reading, 62%. 2012, 74%. Proficiency in math, 2010, 46%. 2012, 55%. Surpasses West Warwick Middle School Deering. So I'd like to commend my teachers for the work that they have done. Let's look at one cohort of students. So our current 8th graders arrived at Thompson, 5th grade, 66% of them proficient. You are now seeing an 8th grade that showed that 86% of them were proficient in reading on NECAP. 86%. Now, I think you probably have to go back pretty far in Newport's years to find that number. So it works. Math, they arrived at 46. Currently, 8th graders leaving at 56%. So, as Dr. Power said, we're going in the right direction.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond to that, please? Briefly, because the reason you're going in that direction is because of this school committee. And the reason I say that is because if you look back in the past test results, when they were not grouped according to ability, the scores weren't that good. 2 years ago, we placed kids according to ability, period.
There are many factors. That's part of it.
That's definitely one of them.
Well, I wouldn't deny that.
That's the junior school model.
We've got a big agenda ahead. Unless somebody has a real pressing issue, I'd like to thank the people from NASDAQ.
How is that a junior? I don't understand that.
Junior high schools are all grouped according to ability. If you're junior high schools, middle school models usually grouped according, head of junior is grouping.
Let's
Let's stop the discussion. We've got to get going. We're going to be here at midnight. And we got to make some big decisions. So, thank you very much, everybody. Jamie, thank you.
Sean?
I'd like to shake your hand and talk to you later, but we've got to move along.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to the teachers. I'd like to give the middle school a hand.
Yes, yeah.
I know some people don't need to hear good news. That's your point, yes, true.
We jump back to item number 5, the consent calendar.
So wait, why don't we take the principal?
I think it's supposed to end at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, just go right,
You want to take
Jim?
Jim and talk about the scheduling?
so we can leave.
Yeah.
Jim, you want to go ahead? Okay.
Where are we?
High school
Discussion
scheduling?
I got it, 7.3.
Yeah.
I thought you were back there listening to middle school stuff.
In living color, thank you.
Last time I was here, we talked about how we did not particularly like the schedule. We were looking at some different options. If you look at the top option, that's the proposed schedule that we have voted on, and the faculty seems to support this. The middle one is the current schedule. The top, what the proposed schedule is, it's essentially on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it is what we currently have. It's a 3-day partial block schedule. All we've done is we've taken Monday and Friday and made those 7-period days. Those would be 48-minute periods. Some of the things we like about this, it allows us to see the kids 4 out of 5 days of the week, which is one of the things. The other thing is, if you look at the period sequence, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Thursday's a little bit of a glitch, but that allows better coordination with the NACTech programs, because the NACTech programs, you're trying to group the kids together with the out-of-district kids. It also allows differentiation in instruction. You have the longer periods in the middle, the shorter during the Monday and Friday. The other thing that it gives us an advantage with is the advisory is every Thursday. That way we can work with, we do a lot of collaboration with Salve Regina, bringing tutors in. It's very difficult when you have a rotate. You don't know when advisory is on any given day. If it's set there, we can work with the Salve tutors can come in, work with our kids during that advisory day. They can set apart. They know when advisory is. And that works on a number of, knowing you have a set schedule, you know what your Monday is, you know what your Tuesday is, works to our advantage also, yes.
What does the red indicate?
The red is, this would be a teacher's schedule. So teacher teaches 5 periods. They'd get block 2 and block 7 off.
Okay.
What I did is, if you look in terms of teaching time, the proposed schedule, without the advisory, if you're looking at the kids with your academic courses, the average is 234 minutes per day. The current schedule is 230 minutes. So there's a little more in the one we have, but they're essentially the same. We're not losing or gaining anything. We are gaining the fact that 3 out of the 5 days you do have professional development for the teachers. You've got the extra block in there for professional development.
Any questions?
It's a lot more organized than it was 2 months ago when you presented it or whatever it was. I was very confused.
Right, yeah, it's a difficult schedule because you have to do the morning rotation, the afternoon to accommodate the vocational program. And nothing's going to be perfect. Yes?
Well, I had a question about, when we moved to the 70-minute schedule, how are they keeping track of the fact that they get through like one of the 3rd classes per period? Is there some kind of a pacing schedule that they have in all these high school classes to making sure that, like in the old thinking, the old model, when it's a 49-minute class, it was based on getting through a lesson, but now you got to get through a lesson and a half. How does that happen? How does that kept track of? Are there pacing schedules for all subjects?
No, we have curriculums that we're following, so, you have to cover certain material. No, pacing we don't really do. You're trying to keep on. It's difficult because you want to use formative assessment to drive instruction. So if the student, if 60% of the students don't understand something, you don't want to move forward. You want to kind of go back and get that, but at the same time, you're tied to covering the material. So it's kind of a balancing act in terms of that, So sometimes I know in math, you want to go deeper into certain topics and, skip over some, there's give and take with that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
No, it was a concern. And I think one thing you didn't point out about this schedule too is that most holidays are on Mondays and Fridays, so it allows for not missing those days, you know.
Right, you don't lose those major, it's an even exchange there, so yeah, that's another thing that, yeah. So overall, once again, it's not a perfect, but I think it works a little bit better than what we have.
Mr. Leary?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have never supported block scheduling and do not like even a modified block, which this is. One of the big reasons is, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons, in essence of time, is that per contract, each teacher gets one prep period a day. Am I correct?
Yes,
I know I'm correct, but, yeah, okay. So if you take that 69 minutes 3 times a week, and then 48 minutes 2 times a week, they get 303 minutes per week, which comes out to, if you did 7 periods a day, it would come out to 240 minutes per week. So they get an extra 63 minutes per week off. Per year, that's 42 hours off out of the classroom.
Well, they're not just sitting around eating chocolates.
Point, but the elementary teachers don't get it. They don't get that much time.
you're talking if we did a 7-period day then?
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's what we had previously, that, if you look at the bottom.
Oh, well, 8 period, teach 5 classes, 1 prep, 1 whatever they do, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so the bottom
8 period.
represents basically what we had before. It's a 7-period day with the two days where you get the 90 minutes to accommodate the labs. And, you know, when I figured that, they average 243, but that's not even figuring in the advisories. The advisories would be 40 minutes, which over 5, 8 minutes a day, so that would actually be 235 in terms of teaching time. So, you know, what we're doing is, you know, if you don't like the block, we're moving a little bit away from the block by giving the 2 7-periods at the end.
Yeah.
And the state requirements for the number of minutes per subject obviously are covered here.
Yeah, I mean, we are increasing the time in front of the students in the academics.
You know what they're actually saying is that they're going to be getting away from the Carnegie units and the actual number of course requirements. The difference is that Newport Public Schools require 24 courses.
No, we require 24 Carnegie units.
Credits, yeah.
The state
Yeah.
requires 20 courses.
Courses, yeah. So it's a completely different
Right.
situation. They're going away from it, so. And all of our teachers, you know, if they're full-time teachers, teach 5 courses.
Yes. Yeah, nothing changes with that.
Jim, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm sorry to shortchange you, but you.
That's okay.
Now, can I go on to item number 5? Consent calendar.
And Mr. Chairman, if we could pull each one of those for a separate vote, please?
Go, sure. Let's take approval of minutes then.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Second one is personnel action.
Need a motion in a second.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's put it on the agenda. I mean, make a motion and we'll.
Yeah, maybe a motion in a second, but I can say.
Go ahead.
Just to,
Make a
Approve the
motion.
personnel.
for personnel.
Make a
Personnel
motion.
action.
You wanted to pull it. What did you want to pull?
Yeah, we got a motion first, then I can, now.
Well, go ahead, make a
Okay.
motion.
motion.
I make a motion, wait a minute, I don't make a motion, I want to make a comment.
Well, you got to have a motion first,
Yes, you do.
and then you have to.
Okay, I make a motion to, the retirement, accept the retirement as presented.
Second.
Retirement, what?
The retirements, there are 4 retirements.
So, okay, so I want to talk about that.
Okay, has it been seconded?
Yep,
Okay,
Mr.
go
Powell
ahead,
seconded.
Go.
Okay, so, Dr. Ambrosi, I looked up the 2 para-educators, one had 12 years, one had 14 years. I want to note this school committee, by negotiating with Council 94, both of those people prior were eligible for Life Blue Cross, but they are no longer when we did the contract out. So you're saving the town probably $800,000 over a mortality table of up to 85 years old. So in that case, that's good news for your unfunded liability. I mean, people have to deal with it one way or another. So it's one. The second question I have, or comment I have, is that on the teachers, obviously one's 23 years, one is 12 years. Does the 12-year one have Life Blue Cross?
I have no idea. I didn't check that out, Bobby.
Okay, so
I
if
didn't know
they-
it was going to be a question. It's a possibility, but I don't know. And her husband was in the district too.
So my question on for liability, if you can work in this district for 12 years and get Life Blue Cross.
Bob, let's stay on the subject.
That is on subject. I'm talking about that's not my comment on the people that are there. I mean, it's good that we did it for some people, but we do have an unfunded liability problem, and that could be part of it for 12 years of work. That's my comment. I agree with it. I'll vote for it. I support it. Just want to get my comment in there.
Okay. So we have 4 resignations. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You mean retirement?
Retirement.
I'm sorry. Now, we split, you pulled out the retirement. Can we take the rest of personnel
Home
action?
instruction, so.
I need a motion.
I move the rest of the personnel,
No, I asked for both each one separately. If you remember my correct motion, you want to go back to tape. Each one I asked for both separately, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3,
Well, then make the
5-4.
motion that you want.
Well, I did, when you make a motion on 5-3 now, request for home instruction. That's simple.
No,
Just
wait a
vote for
minute.
it.
No, wait a minute.
We have-
Pulled out
haven't-
the retirements.
Bobby, we haven't done the other stuff on the personnel.
Oh, I'm
Under the
sorry.
same
Okay.
sheet.
I am sorry. Thank you, Dr. Boji.
That's okay.
I move acceptance of the remaining appointments, resignations, renewals on the personnel schedule.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
For the renewals, can we separate that so, or is that, because,
I can talk about it.
you know, because it's something I
It's for the
can't
rest
vote
of the
for,
year.
so in which case I'd be voting against everything.
Okay, I move acceptance of resignation.
Appointment.
No, I'm going from the resignation. I move acceptance of the resignation.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the resignations?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we'll take up renewals.
How about appointments? Is anybody going to do appointments? We haven't appointed that person.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, Paul Fagan, now we can't talk
No,
about
no,
individuals.
you just talk about the positions.
We did before. We
Well,
did
let's-
before, and I
Just
think
bring
we
up
need
separate
to
votes as they do.
clarify
Move on.
what happened.
Just a separate vote.
I move acceptance of the renewals.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm just going to vote against it because I think the contracts, I don't agree with the contracts, so that's
Okay.
why.
I just want to point out that Mr. Fagan did not sign his previous contract, which gave him lifetime health benefits. He is requesting that the school committee approve this contract, which eliminates the lifetime health benefits, but provides him an additional $4,000 in his pay this year.
So if we,
And I just want to make that clear that this was Mr. Fagan's decision, that this is what Mr. Fagan wanted to do. So he's getting, this contract, he would get an additional $4,000. Next year, that would be his base starting out, and I just wanted to make that clear for the public and for the record. Dr. Nasbo is also not going to have lifetime health benefits, and she would be getting an additional $2,000 this year in her contract renewal. So I wanted to make that clear for the public, since there was so much discussion
Yeah.
last time about these things. I'll talk about that later.
Any other discussion about the renewals? If not, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Vote nay.
Was that 5-2?
Yes.
Okay. I think that takes care.
Resignation.
Who has a resignation?
We did it.
Jackie Nesbitt.
We did it.
We did it.
No, you didn't do
Yeah.
resignations.
Yeah,
You
Ms. Gaines
did-
did it.
That's been,
I
You
moved
did
it.
You
hers,
did, Ms. Gaines, yes.
as well as the others? Is that what you did? Because one's up
Did
there.
you get that, Wendy?
I moved
They're different places.
yeah,
All right.
there are two resignations and one appointment.
All right, request
I
for,
move approval.
You did it.
all in favor?
Yeah.
Wait, we need a second on the
Ah.
the renewals you're doing now?
No, it's all done.
It's all done.
Okay,
All done.
Just,
Everything's all
you
done.
just need a vote.
Right, it was, yeah,
okay. We haven't voted on the renewals yet?
that's all done.
We didn't vote on the appointment.
Of which?
We did the appointment, you asked for the resignation, we're all done. We're all done with personnel, and it's
See,
really
this is
getting
what
late.
happens.
Right.
It's late, my mind is
I think
gone.
there's something in the policy about going beyond 10 o'clock, so.
Correct. Item 5.3. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bid for care and maintenance of school grounds, Mr. Fagan. Mr. Fagan is probably the hardest working person in the Newport Public Schools.
Bar
He
none.
was-
There's many of them.
None.
Even harder than me, because he was out here all weekend long. Let me finish, Paul. On the streets, talking with folks, bothering me, okay? But he was here, he was the eyes and ears of the superintendent. I want to publicly thank him and his staff for the hard work they did over this past horrible storm. Thank you, Paul.
I'll be brief, but since you brought it up, I'd like to thank the staff. You know, they were
Just said
like
that
the
too.
citizens
Yeah.
of Newport. They had to fight this storm so dramatically, but I'd also like to give a shout out to Lee Rice, the
Right.
street supervisor from the city of Newport. If he didn't provide the payloaders for us to remove the snow from the parking lots, because our equipment is certainly not big enough to handle that in a blizzard. So it was a prime example of cooperation, shared services
Right.
between the two departments, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
To get back to the subject, ground maintenance, this is before you as a one-year bid for the grass cutting of our grounds for Rogers High School, Coxshall, Underwood, Triplet, Sheffield, and the Pell School for the 2013 season. I'll mention a couple of notations in the contract before I'll give the recommendation. The Pell School, the grass will be planted, the planting season starts approximately April 15th, and that'll be in the supervision of the contractor to make sure that lawn takes hold, and they'll be taking care of that until approximately August 12th or so. So we asked for a per-week cut for the rest of the season. So in that contract, you'd add that to it when we'll take over that. And also, if during the life of this contract, it's why we only went out for a one-year contract, if we return a building, which we're anticipating, to the city of Newport, if we give the vendor 30-day notice as we have in the past, then it will be, off our responsibility, and it'll be on the city side of the ledger to take care of that building. There was two bidders, Four Seasons Home and Lawn Care, which has handled our needs for the last 6 years or so. They also are a sub of the city. They do properties for them. And DuPont Landscaping, and I recommend that we award this contract to Four Seasons Home and Lawn Care for the price of $19,370. I'd also like to note that this service has gone down dramatically. When we started, I pulled some recent records today. 2000 to 2004, we were paying $29,000 a year for this service. 2000 to 2009, $27,000. The last contract for 3 years, $24,000. At first glance, you might say, well, we returned a lot of properties to the city, but Cary School was a small amount of grass. We did it in-house. Basically, the only thing we returned that we were cutting on the contract was Sheffield. So these contractors have certainly sharpened their pencil to try to get this work. So it's a good contractor, and I would recommend him at this price.
Entertain a motion, yeah, Dr. Flowers?
I just had a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
You want to do a motion first?
Yeah, let's get on to
I
it.
move we award the contract as recommended.
Second.
Okay, now, Dr. Flowers?
Now I have a question. I thought Sheffield had been turned over to the city.
It has been.
It has been. I brought up, like, in the past, we had given Sheffield back to the city. It's on this side of the ledger. I was saying that the price for the contract has gone down through the years, and at first glance, you would think it's because we've returned a lot of buildings, but
So they still-
basically,
It's
just
not listed
Sheffield.
there.
It's not
Sandy,
here.
it's not listed there. It's not listed as one of the
Because I
things.
saw it says Sheffield.
No,
And
Paul just-
there's not much to trim at Thompson then, that part in the front Is that
In the
done
front, there's some property in the back, too, a little bit in the back.
Is
the
that
sides.
in-house or is it with these?
No, it's in the
folks?
contract.
Oh, okay, so just wondering, okay. And again, I think the effort was made with the liaison committee with the council, that this would have been a good time for a little collaboration, but maybe we can look forward to that in the future.
It was discussed. I had meetings with the city of Newport, and it wasn't an option that they were willing to entertain at this time.
It's interesting. Okay.
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 Motion's made and second. Any further
Yeah,
discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just want to make I'm going to support this, but I want to make a quick comment as Dr. Dozier did about the snow removal. I, as a small-time local politician, take this very seriously. And every time there's a big snowstorm, I walk up and down the streets of every single school, as I did last night. I went up and down part of Van Zandt Avenue. Sidewalks were clear, the schools were clear. I went up and down Cranston Calvert, except one little pot between the post office and the playground.
I know
area.
the spot right there, waiting for that. The
Up and
post
down-
office
well,
guy.
Up and down that street, it was, so, and I walked up and down, I went to Sullivan School, I went to Broadway, I went everywhere. I went to Rogers, the park lots are beautiful, did a good job. The reason I say this, but one thing confused me is Thompson. The whole place is clean, except for when you walk up the stairs that come to you, the left side is totally clear, the right side is full of snow. Was there a reason for that?
It was cleared today, Mr. Leary, by approximately 11:15.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was a
It
reason.
wasn't very, if you're looking down from the school, the left side, where they tried to clear that initial landing, they snow blowed, most of the snow was on that side of the landing. And it was turned to ice, and it was just tough to get through till the sun hit it a little bit today. We could finally get through it.
All right, I just didn't know, I just went, because I go all
But
places.
they did have the complete back cleared, they had one half of the horseshoe cleared, the main stairs, and they had the handicap ramp, which was most important, coming up and then all the way up into the back, so.
I know a lot of people don't like me, and that is what it is, but I do go out and check things like that for the safety of the
Oh,
children
there's-
walking up and down the streets, and a parent call me up, and I can say, the sidewalks are clear. And I take the obligation, whether it's checking garbage or checking sidewalks, I'm there.
Okay, we voted on this yet?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, action item, policy. Dr. Flower, you want to lead us through this one?
Yeah, that's when I have too many windows open here. Just a second. Okay, so we're looking at Newport Public Schools number 4610, Human Resources, the recruitment and appointment of the superintendent, and some editing had been done to bring up to date that particular policy. If you just bear with me a minute, I will get the new reading here. And it is to remove one particular sentence where it had said, subsequent extensions, that is of the superintendent's contract, shall only be approved during the final year of the contract. And when the subcommittee met, we agreed that that would inappropriately limit the flexibility of the school committees in the future to deal with future superintendents and their particular contracts of employment. So, the motion that we're looking for is to adopt this particular writing as amended. This is the first reading. To remove that line about saying subsequent extensions shall only be approved during the final year.
That's in red?
It's right here.
And it's, you're
And
And we
removing?
it
have
has a
the,
line
yeah,
through
we
it.
also
Oh, yours
have
has a line
the,
through it, mine doesn't, okay.
the policy as it is written.
Motion
Because it
second.
says that, yeah.
So
Motion
moved.
second.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moved.
Don't-
How would that affect the recruitment of a superintendent?
Negatively.
How?
Because what you would be limiting would be, suppose we have a superintendent, and in the second year, we know that we want to keep this person, and this person wants to be here, but we can't give him an extension of his contract until the last year of his contract.
And that's,
Okay. Well, but other than that, it just seems like we almost have a rolling contract.
No, no,
No,
no,
no,
no.
there's nothing to
That's
do
what
with it.
it'll come down to eventually.
No, no, that's not, it doesn't have to come down to
Well,
that.
it just seems that if the future school committee is going to be locked into a contract that we might be making in they could be stuck with someone they, for some reason, after 2 years, they figure, hey, he's not good. You know, now we're just,
You know, if we have a superintendent and we decide in 1 year that he's not good, we can let go of him.
yeah, but then we have to pay him.
Well,
You know, that's the whole
I
thing.
mean-
We're giving them the advantage, not us as a school committee and as a school. We would have to buy someone out, and that doesn't make sense. I mean, it's great for the new superintendent.
well,
Great.
it's
If you're
not
gonna
good job
negotiate from,
security.
that's the way to go.
It's
I'm
not
sorry.
good job security, and
Three-
I don't think any superintendent worth his mettle would sign a contract knowing that he can be let go with 6 months' notice. And
Well,
that's what this means.
Well, it says 1 year. But-
No,
but the
but
thing
the
is,
final year.
the final
You
year. it could
you
be just
review
right at
in
the end
January of the final year.
Of whatever,
And you
whatever his
decide
contract is.
then that this man is gone, or this woman.
Depends when they're hired.
All right, any
You
other
know-
discussion?
I just find it that we're doing it for the future superintendent, we're not doing the advantage of the school committee or the people. It just doesn't make sense, we're just,
I think you two have had enough conversation. Anybody else have?
Yeah,
want to
Mr.
make
Chairman,
a-
Mr. Chairman?
Good, Ms. Powers.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for this, but I'm also going to say that I would like the committee to take a look at what the standard is for superintendent contracts in the state and, determine, what kind of language we should have in our contract and not have whoever the superintendent is coming in to the district give us a proposal. I'd like to work off our own proposal, and I think we should discuss that ahead of time like we did tonight, talking about what we want in a superintendent. And you're going to hear this theme out of me over time when we talk about school administrators or other people. I'd like Newport to be a place that attracts good administrators, good teachers, and I'd like it to be a place that they want to stay and not leave. So I think we need to look at what do we need to do to be competitive. And I don't know what that, what those standards are, but I think we have to look at the industry standards and figure those out. So I'm going to vote for this because I think that the school committee should have flexibility. But going forward, I'd like to look at, what is the industry standard about, what kind of notice the superintendents expect to get, what do they get, on a national or local level, and Newport be in that area, not be off in some direction, whether it be too restrictive or overly generous.
My thinking on it is, we're going to have the opportunity, I agree with you what you're saying. But we're going to have a visit with NSDEC on the issue of superintendent. I think that's a wonderful opportunity to explore it with them, and maybe they can do the work for us in terms of what other superintendents are getting, so. I'm going
Mr.
to
Chairman?
call, yeah.
Just real quickly, I will not be supporting this. One of the big reasons is that we have a Commission of Education, and her contract is up in June. And guess what? They haven't renewed it yet. So I don't think she's been moved on, because whether it's 1 year or 6 months or 2 years, no, hers hasn't moved on either. So I think that 1 year is plenty of time for a superintendent to be known.
Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey,
Who made the motion? Was it Mrs. Gaines?
Yes.
And who seconded it?
I think I said second, I don't know if anyone else did.
Flowers.
First reading pass?
4-3.
Did the fourth reading.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
As I was going over this, I just want to remind all of us that it's our duty to appoint a screening committee to work with the search firm and the school committee in the process of selection. So we need to be thinking about getting that going right away. And so just a reminder.
Screening committee.
Where is that? Where is that
That's-
spelled out in the book?
It's right in the policy, right there underneath.
Yeah. It's in the policy, and it's also recommended in this brochure.
All right, item number 6.2, resolution layoff notification date.
Gee, I wish some of the staff were here to
Yeah.
hear this again, which we do every year.
Yeah.
I'm recommending that we again send a resolution to the legislature asking that they change the layoff date.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can we send it to individual legislatures
Sure.
that represent Newport?
Yep.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think the last time we had a resolution such as this, it went to all the legislators.
That's fine.
All of
It
them.
does.
Because we have an email, we
I
just,
have
yeah.
electronic email list.
Right.
Can we,
And you just go boom, goes to all the senators, and you go boom, all the representatives.
can we send it by mail for the local ones? Possibly? Just to reaffirm that they're looking at it and not deleting it.
I usually did that by email too. I can do it by email just to file a
As an individual rather than a mass
It's
thing.
just, it's too easy to ignore.
I can do it by email to them.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just for a point of information, at the superintendent's meetings that I attend monthly, this topic of compensation comes up every month, and, Tim Ryan, who is now the executive director for the superintendent's group, has been up testifying at the House, and he was up there last year, he's up there this year, the superintendent's been pushed on this, trying to get that date changed. The biggest sticking problem has been get the unions to agree to do that, for whatever reason. I'm not sure what it's been, but that's been the problem we've had in the past. But they've pushed, and they're pushing again this year to try to get that date changed. It actually is starting to look like maybe that might happen.
6.3, resolution related to the Secana River Bridge.
Wait, we haven't voted on this one.
Who made the motion, who seconded it?
We didn't get it. We didn't get a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We didn't get a vote.
I need a motion for this.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion on the layoff notification date? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now Secana River.
Yeah, Charlie had asked me if I would put this on the agenda. It was a request from, who was it a request from?
Jay
Jay Edwards.
Jay Edwards.
I'm sorry, it's right there. Self-explanatory.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Open for discussion.
I haven't decided whether or not I can support this, because it doesn't give any alternatives for raising revenues for maintenance of the bridge. The only thing that I've heard that's really frightening is that if this doesn't go through, if they don't have a toll on the Secana Bridge, Newport Bridge is going up. I use the Newport Bridge. And I don't want it to go up. So I think there needs to be, I know De Palma has a
Yeah, he has a new
resolution
one.
that offers some kind of amenity to,
Pay more to have your car inspected.
yeah. But
But
I
is-
think there has to be an avenue for revenue to support the maintenance of those bridges. And I don't want to have to worry about going through a bridge and landing in the ocean again, like I did on the Secana. But it's just not fair to put all the tolls on Newport Bridge.
Would you like to modify the, or do you
I
just want to
don't-
vote against it?
I don't know. I'm not going to vote, period.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I wasn't really going to comment, but the point is, why should we be paying a toll to go across the bridge? They don't do it in Providence for against the Washington Bridge. It's just they're doing it on the island. The bridge that fell apart was because the state did not maintain it. Now, whose fault is that? Now, if this has a big effect about jobs, highlight, they get, what, I think 50 to 75% of the business comes from Massachusetts. Who's going to cross the bridge for $8 to do the gambling? They're going to go somewhere else. That's a sideline, but they're just for restaurants and whatever. Since it's here, worrying about a toll, the state shouldn't be putting a toll on it, and they shouldn't be increasing the Pell Bridge to pay for this bridge.
Charlie?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't seem as if we really even should be considering this, because it doesn't affect any of our students coming over we don't have kids coming over the bridge from Tiverton, so I find it, really not something that falls under what we're trying to do for the students of Newport, so, for our vision or mission statement, so I'm not going to even be voting.
I could
Mr.
just-
Chairman,
Yes.
just when listening to Mrs. Boland now, you're certainly correct, but I think sometimes we can tend to be very insular. And I can say this, I'm born and raised in Newport, and I've lived all my life so far in Newport, so I think
Don't
taking,
cross bridges.
I do cross the bridges, yes. More the past few years than I ever did. But I think whether or not we agree with this particular proposal, I think the fact that we should be getting ourselves beyond 1 mile corner, it doesn't hurt for us to take, as elected officials, to take some kind of a stand on this.
I'll just give you my viewpoint. One is, yes, our students aren't going across the bridge, but in the summertime, I can tell you from my family who comes down from Massachusetts, just to use the beaches and eat here, an extra $8 each time is going to change their pattern. And the other is, I just getting a little paranoid about being on Aquidneck Island, but why should our bridge suddenly, as Tom said, why haven't they maintained it?
We're rich.
And I just think the state has an obligation. They had that, they took on that obligation, and they should continue with that obligation unless they make it equal across the state. So I will support the resolution.
I do want to just point out, since Charlie had initially asked me to put this on the agenda, and since we've been having the discussion, it does impact on some of our kids. We do have kids who come here from Tiverton and Little Compton, and they come across and we do have staff members who come across the bridge that way. And their parents that come too. So as I'm reflecting on that conversation, and you just brought it up, Becky, okay? Because I never even thought about that. But it will impact on them too. So, I mean, this isn't a major issue, but I think it's an issue worth considering.
Mrs. Gaines for the second
Okay,
time.
this is another issue I have, and you just made it, talking about costing $8. There is such a thing as an easy pass.
For Rhode Islanders.
It's New
No,
England.
it's many states.
It's
Yeah, but
New
it
England.
still
I
won't be
use my
80
easy
it won't be
pass.
83
I
cents,
use
it
my
would.
easy pass in
But
Massachusetts
you
and
pay-
Connecticut.
You pay more
Um,
than, someone from Connecticut.
I might pay more, but I'm not paying $4 each
It'll
way.
be close to it.
Okay?
It'll be close to it.
I pay 83 cents.
You go to New York, go to New
83
Hampshire.
cents each way
I
over the
move the
bridge.
question.
Excuse me, I've got the floor.
Sorry.
Right, Bobby?
Have you talked twice, Joe?
But my other objection is, this resolution calls for the repeal of the transfer of the Secundit River Bridge to the Turnpike and Bridge Authority, to the Department of Transportation. It's the Department of Transportation that let the bridge rot.
Yeah.
And if you look at Newport Bridge, that is under the auspices of the Bridge and Turnpike Authority, those people are working 24/7 for upkeep on that bridge. That's not gonna happen with DOT. The money is gonna go into the black hole, and nothing's gonna get repaired.
It's still part of this money from the Secundit Bridge is going to the black hole to support
That's
other
why I'm
roads.
not gonna, that's why
So
I'm
it's
not
not,
gonna.
it's
Well, no,
just
it
not a
says
clear-cut
here.
thing.
Okay.
All right, let's
Repeal the-
come for a vote, and let's do some, one go around for one quick comment. You have, Dr.
She did her too.
Dr. Flowers? Okay,
Okay.
all right. Call for a vote. All in favor of the resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Wait a minute, Phelan, Dr. Shin, who else? Becky?
Three?
Opposed?
4.
4.
2.
Who's opposed?
I'm abstaining.
So what happened?
We're up to 7 point.
Oh, someone,
Okay.
We
So it
can
doesn't
go
go
a little
anywhere.
bit. We're at 7.4 now.
Okay, this is a real easy one. We've been looking
Yeah.
for somebody who worked as a business
That's it.
office manager or an accountant. We went out twice. We didn't find anybody on 2 separate occasions. Joan Tracy advises me that we wait until after the tax season because nobody's going to leave their job now. And that's my report.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. 7.5, employee attendance.
Employee attendance update. Again, we had a policy. The policy was to get an auditable, verifiable, blah, 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 okay? I set up a sign-up sheet. School committee said no, get rid of the sign-up sheet, okay? And explore other options. I asked at the school committee meeting, because I did review this tape, who's going to do that? Who's going to investigate the other options? And I never got an
You
answer.
didn't, I listened to the tape yesterday.
It's principal's job.
I said that, never got
So
an
you're
answer.
off the hook.
Because absolutely, because quite honestly, if the school committee wants to do this, they should direct me specifically to either look at a time clock
This is
or a swipe card, because I don't want to waste my time doing this again. I wasted my time once to develop the sign-in sheets. And then you said, forget about the sign-in sheets. So you need to tell me what you want me to do in terms of exploring this stuff, or don't do anything. Just get rid of the verifiable and auditable, because I like to say it's a dancing bear in the shooting gallery. You go this way and you get bing, you go this way and you get bing. You need to let me know what you want.
I have a very positive suggestion. We met with the security providers for the new Pell School,
Yep.
and that school is going to be equipped with swipe cards. And I would suggest we look at expanding that security system to Thompson and Rogers.
Very good.
Okay, so at the next school committee meeting, then there should be an action item directing me to look at.
Investigate.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
So that's some clarity that I can deal with. Thank you.
Pell Building, I guess we've settled.
Yeah, we just have two things. We will be exploring all of the suggestions about the parking. I'm going to have to take a look at that. I just got this, Thursday or something, and we've been out since then. They're stating that the one-way street operation is a non-starter. But we will be taking a look at all of the different options with regard to the temporary parking and the parent drop-off. So we'll be taking a look at that. I'll get back to you, next steps with regard to that. Then we're talking about the furniture. They've updated the current estimate, which is over what we had initially thought, but maybe within the budget. So you have there the timelines. We're well within the timelines to get the stuff the way we need it. We've met with all the staff several different times, gotten feedback back and forth and back and forth. We should be fine with this. So that's my report on that, and it looks good. They'll go out to bid, and we'll get some nice furniture, nice new furniture for our kids going to Pell.
Okay, you're on, number 8.
Number 8, expenditure and revenue reports are listed. You know what?
I move we accept as presented.
Second.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Leary?
just on the suspension of every report, I think we can bring this up now. I'd like to, I know I talked to Dr. Ambrosi about this, the funding formula. I would like that we act on that before March 15th was the deadline for the funding formula. There is an extra $1,642 per kid with a free reduced lunch form. So I will personally volunteer, and unfortunately, I do taxes 3 days a week, but the other 2 days a week, I will personally volunteer to go knock on doors to get that, because that's an extra $1,642, and I mean that. Just like I check the sidewalks, I will knock on the doors to get it. If you give me the list, I'll go get them.
And we've talked about this, Bob, and I've talked with Becky about it, I've talked with some other school committee folks about it. And I said we would do this. A staff member is going to cross-reference the NutriKids, and that tells us everything about everybody. Kids who are on free reduced lunch, kids who aren't, and we're able to ascertain those youngsters who are even close, and we'll redouble our efforts to go out and take care of that situation. On the other hand, there are kids that we know aren't eligible, and I'm not going to be harassing those folks, so, okay?
Right.
Have we finished that yet?
Second.
So just for the record,
Have we finished all your reports?
I believe
No, we're
the
not finished.
funding
We're not
formula,
there
if you
yet.
could look into this, but I believe the funding formula is based on the K through 6, and that's it, in the state, believe it or not,
It is.
on your kids. So we only have to concentrate on K to 6, and if we have a lot of kids right now that have outstanding balances on lunches, why can't we take a look at those kids, see if they're eligible for free reduced lunch? And again, I will volunteer, I mean it.
Yeah,
I will volunteer to go to, because if it's only 10 kids, it's $16,000. If it's 100 kids, it's $164,000 more money we're getting from the state each year.
I think they're small numbers, Bob, but I agree.
I know they're
that
small numbers.
But I agree we need to drill down into it, you know? I think they're small numbers that we haven't caught, but we'll drill down into it again. Okay, enrollment reports are listed, damage reports are listed. Superintendent's update is listed with 34 different items.
You want to move on that one?
Yeah, we can move
I did already.
on the whole thing, though. You
The
just
whole
did the one.
thing.
Okay. We got a second on the
Second.
superintendent's
Yep,
report?
second.
All in favor?
Aye. Move adjourn?
Yes.
No, we need executive session for 5 minutes, just 5
You know,
minutes.
she's been here 2 meetings.
Oh.
She wanted to talk.
Oh.
I spoke to
Yeah.
Mrs. Fagan last month about the security. Mrs. Gage talked about it. I'm talking about the locks on the individual classroom doors.
Uh-huh.
He said that he's going to have a security meeting last week.
We did.
And he would have a report to me tonight about the locks on the doors.
Oh, he forgot. The locks on the doors open from the inside when the door is locked, but not from the outside.
So the teacher will not have to go into the hall to lock or
No,
unlock the door?
no.
No.
What about the connecting doors, since the rooms connect each other?
The connecting doors don't have locks.
Yeah, as long as both doors
Yeah.
are locked, both outside doors are locked, nobody can get in. It's only connecting because of that small,
I hear you, but if classroom A's door is not locked and the intruder comes in there, and even if classroom B's door is locked, they can get through the connecting door.
they certainly can. I mean, yeah. If it's a lockdown situation, people know to lock the doors. And the person, if there's no teacher in the other classroom, would know to go in and lock that door. And if the teacher wasn't in the classroom, my thoughts are she's locking the door anyhow. But I do think it's a very safe building. The security we reviewed was great. There's a buzzer system. There are cameras all around. You know, I think it's good. And I'll be happy to meet with you and talk with you, Lil, at some point in time, more specifically, so you can see how it's planned out. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being patient.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, really.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mrs. Gaines to make the motion for executive session.
I don't have it. I move that this committee adjourn into open session according to, executive session, according to Rhode Island State Law, Chapter 4642, 46.5, and/or 65A A1 or A2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You know, what you're gonna be asking